Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Today is a previews episode, returning to previews. And of course, it being a previews episode, it would not be the same unless I was joined by the illustrious, the wonderful George from the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show. Hey, George, how you doing?
Hey, Eric. Greetings, everybody, from 30 miles outside of our nation's capital.
And how are things in the nation's capital, or 30 miles away from the nation's capital?
I am under a strict non-disclosure agreement that I am not allowed to divulge anything, or else I will be disavowed. But I'll keep things generic. The weather is beautiful. It's a little humid, but it is summertime. It's understandable, and it's just a nice time of year to be here.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. All right. So, George, what's been going on with you with the still defunct show? And I saw on social media that you recently attended a viewing of Ant-Man and Wasp, right?
I did. I went, as of this recording, I went 2 nights ago. Loved it.
Yeah?
A lot of fun. Have you seen it yet?
I have not.
Okay. I highly recommend it. I listen to a lot of podcasts, including yours, and a lot of other ones that I've discovered through you, or vice versa. And some of them have reviewed Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I find it very interesting, the difference of opinions, A, in the comic community, and then B, people outside the community, film reviewers, people whose job it is to review films who have nothing to do with reading comics or anything like that. It's just very interesting to hear how some people have different takes on this movie that I thought was a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I recommend it. I don't know what podcasts everybody else may be listening to, but or what reviewers people are reading, but I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching it, of course. This might be the first. Trying to remember if I've skipped any of these superhero movies in the theater. I don't think so up to this point, but this might be the first one, and not because I think it's like a bad film or anything. I'm just trying to, going to the movies is kind of expensive, and
it is,
and quite frankly, I don't enjoy it as much anymore.
Really,
I prefer. I think I've said this before on the show, but I think I prefer to. If I had the option, I would totally rent the movie right now if it were available. And I'd pay the usual price for it,
right?
But to just watch it in the comfort of my own home, without people smacking their popcorn and wrinkling their candy wrappers and crap like that. So turning into the old curmudgeon.
I see. Maybe I have to get off your lawn.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least get your feet off the back of my my theater seat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must. Then I guess I have to match your curmudgeonliness. Last night, the night after Ant-Man and the Wasp, my local Alamo Drafthouse. Have we talked about Alamo Drafthouse on this show? I think we have.
I don't remember, but I remember you talking about it many times on your show.
And you don't have one by you, if I recall correctly.
No.
Okay. Well, sometimes they'll show classic films. They'll have a night for classic films. And last night they had a restored version of Yellow Submarine.
Oh, right. I did see that you had gone to that. Yeah.
And it was awesome. And Brian Loy, who was a frequent guest on the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show, who still does film reviews on Epic Film Guys every now and again. He's the creative director over at my local Alamo Drafthouse. And he said at the beginning of the movie that usually he'll take there's a film club over there that meets every Wednesday night. And usually they'll take a picture in front of the screen to post on social media that, hey, we're all part of the film club, whatever. Well, usually he said about 50 people will show up for film club. Last night it was a sellout with about 150 people.
Wow.
So there's heavy interest in this restored version of the Yellow Submarine. So he said they'll be showing it again. And they'll also be showing it in the format where you can specifically have a sing-along, which they do sometimes for movies. They'll do that for The Sound of Music or Disney films or whatever. Unfortunately, in the movie last night, some people thought it was the sing-along and started to sing along. And I'll admit it was a little distracting, but I enjoyed it. Man, it's definitely a movie from a different time. If you've never seen it before and you're even remotely a Beatles fan, I think you have to see it. If you're not a Beatles fan, maybe if you're out of my generation, I'm not quite sure how well it would play. I mean, there weren't very many people there that were outside of the close to AARP demographic.
Of course, yeah.
So I don't know how it would play with the young whippersnappers or the hipsters or anybody who was maybe born only in this century. I'm not sure how well it would play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I haven't seen Yellow Submarine since I was a kid, and I remember watching it on television. It was some sort of broadcast version.
It's the only way I've seen it.
Yeah, I must have been, 10, probably under 10 years old.
Yeah,
so younger than 10. So it's been a long time, but I remember enjoying it.
As a kid, I think the Blue Meanies gave me nightmares.
Oh, right, yeah.
I did buy a copy on VHS when it came out, 20 years ago, whatever. But it was the collector's edition in the yellow case. And I never took it out of the cellophane with that collector's mentality I had. So I never saw it probably since I was 10 also, even though I owned it and I never popped it in the VCR. Collector's mentality. Comic book collectors.
Yeah.
That's how they are.
And that was, when I saw that was when I didn't even really know who the Beatles were, what they were about. Never really listened to their music before, but it was, it was a cartoon, a musical cartoon. So of course, as a kid, I'm like, oh, this is cool. It was only later that I started to appreciate the Beatles as musicians and performers.
Well, you know what? I know we haven't gotten the previews yet, and I know we typically run long on these preview shows, which we plan not to, folks. I promise. But the hell is that? Can't do it. That was Bianca. By the way, Bianca was our spokes cat over at one of our generous benefactors on the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show. Anyway, one of the distributors of Yellow Submarine was King Features Syndicate. And as a lot of us remember, King Features had a lot of comic strips in the newspapers back in the day. And at one point in the movie, there's a scene where it looks like there are cardboard cutouts of the Phantom, Mandrake the Magician, some other characters I don't necessarily recognize. And I started to get this little feeling of deja vu. I forgot that scene in the movie. But over the years, I've had this kind of like fever dream that back when I was a kid, there was a cartoon that was a movie that teamed up all of these newspaper strip characters. And they were teamed up and they were trapped in a castle or something like that, fighting whatever the bad guy was. And I'm talking about characters like Hagar the Horrible, Beetle Bailey, Snuffy Smith, characters like that. And I was thinking to myself, that could never have happened because of all as I got older, and I was thinking, gee, that must have, I must have been having a fever one day thinking I saw that on television. I was probably reading the paper, watching cartoons, and I got a little dizzy with 104 fever or something. I thought I saw something on TV. But now I'm thinking about it. I think they are all owned by King Syndicate. So I'm asking your listeners, if anybody knows of this cartoon, and you saw it Saturday morning sometime after the typical normal Saturday morning cartoons, if you can confirm that this existed, I would appreciate it. Let me know at George and Tony on Twitter if you know that whether or not this film exists, if you've seen it on YouTube, if you remember it at all, or am I just crazy? I think we all know the answer to it, that I'm crazy. But I'm asking the listeners, maybe, let's use this podcast for good rather than evil.
Wait a minute. What are you saying, George?
Well, what I'm saying is when we talk about previews, we are tempting so many people to spend a lot of money they don't have on these fantastic items in this book. So,
well, that is true. Very, very true.
And by the way, I must compliment you, Eric, before we move on. The last episode I heard of your show prior to our recording, I don't know if it's the last episode that will be up before this goes up. You had Damien and Matt from the podcast Never Stay Dead on, and I have to say I enjoyed that immensely.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I love the discussion. I hope other people enjoyed the pulling back the curtain of the podcast world. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one of the. I really like to do that. I really like to talk to podcasters such as yourself and talk shop. But I know it's probably not the subject matter that most people download my show for. But every once in a while, I kind of push it out there, explore that realm a little bit, just because it's such a fascinating thing to me.
And I will admit I'm a little jealous because you guys did bring up your planned excursion to Rose City Comic Con this year. And does your buddy Travis, who comes on your breaking late news episodes, does he go to that too or no?
Not yet.
Okay.
He's just because of things that go on in his day-to-day life. That time of year is not good for him to go. But I'm hoping, crossing my fingers and my toes, that next year, because he's suggested that perhaps next year he could make it. So,
well, even if it's just you, Damien, and Matt talking together with a portable recorder in whatever pub you happen to be in that you kind of teased us with in your last episode. I can't wait to hear that conversation, and B, I'm a little jealous that I can't be a part of it. You even mentioned to them that you wanted to get in on a conversation with them when you were listening to one of their shows as the listener. You were talking to your computer or talking to your phone. And I think that's what makes podcasts great. I do that all the time to all different podcasts, including yours. So I have a lot of fun listening to you guys pull back the curtains and tell us about your show and their show.
Yeah. I had a lovely conversation with them, and I hope to do it again some other time.
And they have a great show.
Yeah. Yes, they do. I really like that show a lot. And so I'm not just saying that because I happen to know both Damien and Matt, and I just really like their camaraderie on their show. So,
and one day I'm going to watch the video version, and maybe I'll even do it live. I'm totally an audio guy, so
yeah,
it's very rare I watch any of the YouTube stuff. But one of these days I might watch live so I can participate in chat.
Well, if I were more savvy at this, I should have advertised it more, but I wasn't quite sure that we were going to do it when we did. I mean, we planned on it, but the timing was a little tight, and I wasn't sure if everything was going to happen when it did, and then suddenly it was like, oh yeah, we're all ready to go, and so boom, we just launched into it. But yeah, one of these days I'll get better at this social media thing.
And I'll surprise all of you when I participate. You'll go, oh my God, is that George and Tony? And of course it'll really be Tony. It won't be me. It'll be Tony.
It'll be Tony cosplaying as George.
Mm-hmm. Which if that actually happens, it's like crossing the streams in Ghostbusters. Something bad might happen.
Well,
and I don't want to slight Peter Rios. I know another Legion project is coming out, so looking forward to that too.
Yep. We actually we recorded it. We recorded for episode 8 just last night at the time of this recording. So
I saw your post about that. So excited to hear that too.
Getting 2 recordings in 1 week, and if it wasn't for the fact that I'm going to go visit my daughter and granddaughter this weekend, I would be probably recording some solo shows as well, because I'm horribly behind. I took a little time off there. And I got all these comics I want to over here on my desk that I'm looking at that I need to talk about. So
yeah, you read them so we don't have to.
All right. Well,
shall we get into this?
Yeah,
thing?
I was going to say. Speaking of comics that we haven't read yet.
Thanks for listening, guys. See you next time. Bye.
So this is the previews. We're going to go through the previews catalog. This is the July previews catalog for things mostly shipping in September. And George and I we're gonna switch things up a little bit from our usual organization, and we're gonna talk about the main previews catalog book and all of the independent comic publishers in it for things that we found that we liked, that we thought were interesting.
Yes.
And want to suggest or point out to you, the listener. And then we'll get into Marvel and DC down the road there.
Yeah, those guys. I mean, let's face it, there are some other shows out there that do preview shows, and they tend to focus on Marvel and DC so much, and they ignore this part of the catalog. And I would think, Eric, anybody who listens to your show is already pretty much aware Batman exists. It's written by Tom King. They know that, right? They know Superman Bendis is there. I mean, it's not news to these guys.
That's true.
Let's try and illuminate some of the things that they may ignore in the other parts of this book.
Yeah, exactly. That's my hope too. Although, to be fair, I do have quite a bit of Marvel and DC stuff that I want to point out. So
I don't doubt it. And the first publisher we're going to deal with, probably everything that I have earmarked is only on my pull list. So I have the feeling I'm not going to be telling them anything special. I think all your listeners already know about these books.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when we get deeper in that hopefully we'll let them, we'll have them at least look at something, say, oh, I missed page 532. Wow. Mm-hmm. Thanks, George. Thanks, Eric.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So, you want to start? What are some things from Image that you would like to point out?
Well, Image, to be honest with you, I don't have that many. I just have what would be on my pull list. There's nothing new that has attracted me. So if there's anything new, number one, or something that got your attention, why don't you let us know?
Okay.
Was there anything?
Yeah, I have a few things here.
Great.
First up is Man Eaters, which is a new series. I think it is. Yeah, not a mini series. It's a new series. It's by writer Chelsea Cain, which is why it was brought to why it kind of jumped out at me, because Chelsea Cain wrote the wonderful series Mockingbird a year or two ago for Marvel, and that was just wonderful stuff. This is also artist Kate Niemczyk. I don't.
You do a better job on those names than I do.
But more importantly, there was a in the Image Plus magazine that I also get when I get previews. There was a preview of this comic, and it reads pretty interesting. It's about teenage Lycan. No, not Lycan. That's wolf. So what's the cat version of that? The feline.
Let's just say feline. I guess. Yeah, I know it's something else, but
yeah.
Bianca, can you help us out, please? Oh, she's running around.
Oh yeah. Let's ask Bianca.
She's.
But So I mean, the tagline is: a mutation in toxoplasmosis causes menstruating women to turn into ferocious killer wildcats, easily provoked and extremely dangerous. And then it focuses on one 12-year-old girl, but just the little preview pages that we got in the Image Plus magazine was really good and something that I'm interested in.
What looked like one of the splash pages gave me a little bit of a Handmaid's Tale vibe.
Yes, very. I mean, they even mentioned that here in the solicitation text. It says part cat people, part Handmaid's Tale. Mm-hmm. Man Eaters will have everyone talking, and I don't doubt it. Chelsea Cain is a fantastic writer, comic writer. And so, yeah, I'm probably going to pick it up and trade, but because that's kind of where my reading habits are going to more and more, is just to save a little bit of money and not have to buy so much every month. But that looks really good. And then next up is, and only because of the creative team, again, Cemetery Beach, which is a new series. By writer Warren Ellis and artist Jason Howard. So these are the guys behind the wonderful Trees series that I just read volume 2 of in trade a few weeks ago, some weeks ago. And that was, I really wish that they would get back to doing Trees. I didn't get the sense that the series was done, but here they are doing a different series. So I'm kind of sad that I'm thinking that Trees is over with, but here's another book by them. Let's see here. I'm looking at my list where I've lost my list. So I don't know, George, were you reading Kill or Be Killed?
I was not.
Okay. Or
I know it recently ended.
What's the other one I'm thinking of? Fatale, Fade Out. Did you read any of those? Okay.
Nope.
So anyway, this is the Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips team. Elizabeth Breitweiser on colors, I think, is doing this one too. But this is this is not a new series. It's an original graphic novel from that team called My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies. And it's a hardcover from Image. And it's has something to do with, I think, characters. No, I think I'm getting confused because I just read the last issue of Kill or Be Killed. And in the back, Ed Brubaker was talking about the next thing that they're doing, which is related to the Fade Out.
I heard about that.
Which was I love that series. I wish it was still going on. So I'm really looking forward to that. But for some reason, I thought that this perhaps was that it was tied into that older series, but I don't think so.
You bring that up as almost like a very small version of your breaking late news that you do with Travis. I hope you guys are going to be doing something post San Diego Comic-Con when a ton of news will be coming out. I mean, there's already been a big announcement about Wonder Woman.
Right.
So, So, I mean, I'm hoping you guys are going to do something. And if not, I'm hoping I can coerce you into doing something with Travis if you have the time, because a lot of news will come out of it. And I would like to hear your take on it.
We generally try to do that for the big announcement stuff. And now that we're doing I guess semi-regular now, it's not regular because we haven't been doing it once a month like we planned, but that'll be, well, actually that's just coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And, I used to be jealous of people who could go there and that I was missing it, but now I don't care so much because it's just too big. And I don't think I would enjoy myself. I'm more jealous of a trip like you guys are taking to Rose City or maybe Baltimore here on my end of the country or things like that. So it's those, or New York Comic Con. I'm wearing my New York Comic Con shirt, as nobody can see since it's audio, with Super Grover on it. Although New York Comic Con is just as bad as San Diego Comic Con when it comes to crowds. Right. I haven't gone in years, a couple of years, but I get that little bit of jealousy.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of this, George, I'm going to go down this weekend as we record. I'm going to go down and visit my daughter because my granddaughter, my daughter's kid, is turning 1 year old.
Yeah, I can't believe a year goes by, man.
I know, right? But guess what's just going on the same weekend down there? Wait,
a year goes by just like that. Oh, darn it! I was wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. Eric, are you still there? Are you still there? Eric, hello? Is this still on? Oh, there you are. Oh, getting a little worried there, man. Sorry.
I don't feel so
good, I hope we didn't
George.
Lose half the listeners. Oh, man.
Yeah. But
what's going on in Boise? Sorry, that was a very bad.
There's a Comic-Con.
Is it really?
Yeah, a Wizard World Boise Comic-Con going on that same weekend.
Did your daughter know when to give birth? She planned a year ahead, knowing that Wizard World would be going on the first birthday of your grand.
Yes.
Wow. But you're not going, are you?
No, not at all. Oh. Not at all. But I was just going to say, my daughter was very gracious and said, "Feel free to go if you want to."
Right. Go for a day. Why not?
Yeah.
Go for a couple
exactly.
hours.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no. God, no. I love Comic-Cons, but no, I love my kid and my granddaughter a bajillion times more. So I much rather spend time with them.
Good decision. I don't think anybody could question your decision.
Actually, when I said that in the back of my head, I could hear Travis going, "You're no fan."
Travis might have just clicked this off.
He says that, but I know why he's not going to Rose City Comic-Con so far. It has to do with family. So
okay,
he's an old softie too.
Wait, this just in with some breaking late news. Family comes first. Family comes first. And now back to the preview show.
All right. Well, that's all I got really for Image. Should we move on to Dark Horse?
Yeah, just part of this is I like to share my pull list.
Okay.
And I did this the last time. I know it gets redundant, and I know it's probably not good form for a preview show, but I'll do it fast. When it comes to Image, at least in this catalog, the only things I will be getting are Paper Girls number 24, Skyward number 6. I have been enjoying Skyward, and Unnatural number 3, a miniseries that is being translated from Italian, from what I understand. So I mean, the story already exists, but it it's being published, I think, for the first time in English.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that.
Yeah. So those are the only things that I'm getting from Image in the month of September. At least that's the plan.
Well, okay. Since we're talking about existing stuff, I did have on here the Wicked and Divine. They're doing. I guess they're calling it the final historical one shot. And I have been really enjoying those historical one shots that they've been putting out. So I wonder. I kind of been getting the sense that they're about to wrap up the series here pretty soon.
And what number is it up to? Hasn't it been like 3 or 4 years already? It's got to be. It's got to be. They got to be in the 30s, I would think, by now. So that would kind of make sense.
I got an issue. I just read an issue. 37 is the latest issue that I have.
Yeah, so for a series like that, it wouldn't be surprising that would be coming to an end. But like you say, a little disappointing for you since you're enjoying it so much.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, these things do have their natural conclusion.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, or shall we move?
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
What do you got going for Dark Horse?
Well, I am interested in the Mystery Science Theater 3000.
That's on my list as well.
Yeah, this cover looks amazing. Looks like a heck of a lot of fun. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to break the fourth wall, maybe even create a fifth wall. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but it just looks like a lot of fun.
You know, that's I will admit, bad geek that I am. I don't think I've ever watched a full episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
They had now I forget their names. But two of the guys from there that do the riffing on the movies.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They make the rounds to these Alamo Draft Houses and other movie theaters and show some bad movie from the 50s or the 60s. And I attended one of those earlier this year, one of those riff track type things, but they were there in the audience. It wasn't that they were doing it remotely. They were sitting right there in my row doing it. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. It was the first time I had done anything like that before.
Oh, I'd love to attend something like that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I've seen them advertised at those Fathom events. Mm-hmm. Where they're not actually there, they're doing it remotely, but to have them there was kind of cool.
Did you see the Stranger Things comic that they're coming out with?
Very interesting. Okay, first of all, I'm going to let everybody in on this. I don't subscribe to Netflix, so I've never seen either season. And
such a fun show.
I can't wait to watch to see at what part in the show this is taking place. Mm-hmm. Sounds very interesting, and for any fan of the show, I think it's a must read.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of wet their, to kind of get their fix.
Yeah,
in fact, I'm looking at a page of art right now. Nice.
Yeah, that's a show that my entire family has kind of fallen in love with. And so we were able to, myself, my wife, the Maddie and Gabby, the granddaughters that live with us, they all enjoy it. So it was really cool. We got into the first season, it ended, and the second season was just about ready to come out. And I remember there was a few times there we'd come home from work or whatever, and Maddie was like, Can we watch it now? Is it out? I'm like, no, not yet. Hold on.
What is it, like 13 episodes for each of those seasons or something like that? I mean, it doesn't go more than that.
No, right? There aren't that many, which I think is great. I think that's a season model that every show should probably follow.
Mm-hmm. Especially serialized shows like that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take some of the dead weight out that usually happens in the middle of a season like that. Mm-hmm. My nephew Frank was here. Usually, if my show was still going on, this is about the time of year our annual visit with my nephew Frank would have occurred. He came to town for the second year in a row now to volunteer at a local Comic-Con here in Northern Virginia. Last year we did it. We had a lot of fun. So we did it again this year. It was All-Star Comic-Con. And one of the things he did for me is he brought a bunch of T-shirts that he got in Loot Crate. And one of the T-shirts was a Stranger Things one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of the only ones that fit. Eric, when you're bulking up, when you go to the gym so much and you're bulking up,
do you even lift?
Just can't fit in the clothes.
Do you even lift, dude? I know I
man,
just said that wrong too.
Unfortunately, all the gaining isn't in the chest or pec area; it's down in the abdomen area. So the Stranger Things one is one of the only ones that fit decent enough for me to wear in public, and of course, it's the one franchise I know very little, if nothing, about.
Ironic.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. Oh, and my wife didn't like the drawing because it had the Demogorgon. Is that how you pronounce?
Oh, yeah. The monster.
She thought it was disgusting. Yeah, she didn't like it, so I can't wear it around her.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe for Halloween. Hey, how about on page 108, Olivia Twist, number 1?
Very good.
By Darren Strauss and Adam Dalva and Emma Viacelli. The artwork looks beautiful on this.
And you gotta as a former English major, I gotta love literary adaptations. This looks like fun.
Yes, and I think I'm going to go for that. Speaking of literary adaptations, there's one more thing a little further in Dark Horse that I'm going to bring up, but I'm guessing you and I both have something on page 116 that we might be interested in.
Oh, the
Black Hammer stuff.
Yeah, Black Hammer stuff. Oh, yeah.
Now, did I skip anything that you were going to talk about? Okay. Nope. Black Hammer, Age of Doom, definitely on my pull list, as is anything related to it, and they are releasing Quantum Age right now. They had those other 2 miniseries, and now this Quantum Age from the World of Black Hammer #3.
Yeah,
so I'm definitely into all that stuff.
I have not read the first issue yet of Quantum Age, but man, I am so looking forward to this.
Yeah. I just picked it up, and I am ready to read it myself.
Good.
The only other thing I have for Dark Horse is it has a little bit of a literary vein to it, but it also has a Disney vein. There, on page 121, 2 classic novels are being told in a Disney way, and I'm a big Moby Dick fan. The other one is Disney Treasure Island starring Mickey Mouse, but I'm going to go for the Disney Moby Dick starring Donald Duck.
That's interesting.
I'm a Moby Dick fan.
Yeah, Travis is too.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I really like that guy for some reason.
Yeah, he was
to the point, to my wife's chagrin. I guess I shouldn't share this. I probably shared it on my show, but when I went on my honeymoon, it was around the time when Patrick Stewart was in a TV movie version of Moby Dick. I think it was like a 2-night event or something like
I remember that.
I don't remember details. So they re-released Moby Dick, as they always do. It's always out there as a classic, but the cover had Patrick Stewart on it. I hadn't at the time read Moby Dick since I was in high school, so I picked it up. Patrick Stewart was on the cover. I had to pick it up. It was almost like a no-brainer. And I brought it on my honeymoon.
Oh!
Now, I was on a cruise. It was an 11-day cruise, so there was going to be downtime where you're just sitting in the sun doing nothing. But Moby Dick is not the beach read, So let's just say it was not read on the honeymoon. It was brought along, but it was not read on the honeymoon. No, and for all you kids out there who have never read it before, it's not a beach read. Don't bother bringing it to the beach. Bring trying to think of maybe a Nora Roberts book. I'm trying to think of someone who maybe a Fannie Flagg book. I don't know. Don't bring a Melville book.
Yeah,
it's not going to go well.
Oh, that's good. Anything else from Dark Horse?
That's it for me.
All right. IDW is up next.
Yes. Ooh, IDW.
And the first thing, I'll just jump right in with this one, George, because it's Star Trek related.
And isn't, something? I think this is why we're even doing this episode. Because I think I came to you and I said, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. And then I think it just kind of snowballed into this episode these poor people are listening to right now.
Yeah. That's not the only reason, but.
No, I know.
Star Trek versus Transformers.
My God. What? Dun, dun, dun.
And even better, it's the animated series Star Trek.
God, I love this stuff.
So, I mean, this makes and of course it's the Transformers from the cartoon. Mm-hmm. This is like a totally makes sense. It's like, this is a perfect team up between 2 animated series from our childhood. Although, to be fair, Transformers came a little bit later, so we're not really my childhood, probably not yours, but you know.
Yeah.
But animated Star Trek, that's just awesome.
Yeah, this is great.
As it says, a 5-year
going
mission meets a 4 million year war.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that they've got the characters from the animated series, I forget the name of the person who took Chekhov's place. And they've got the cat-like woman here. I forget her name too. But
Maress.
Man, what was her name?
Maress.
I
think. Man, boy, I'm second guessing myself now.
What a great thing. I remember there was a bookstore. It was probably Borders or something like that, and they had these in a bargain bin, videotapes, and I think there were only 2 episodes per tape, and I just bought almost all of them. What I should say, I bought all of them that were on sale, but it wasn't it wasn't all of them. Some were missing.
Yeah.
But in one fell swoop for a very cheap price, I got all these videotapes, and those I actually watched. Unlike the Yellow Submarine videotape, these got watched.
Yeah. That Star Trek cartoon is just, as I talked about it in my Star Trek retrospective episode over a year ago. I can't even remember the number, but I talked about the animated series and how much I loved it. So
I'll tell you, the only other thing I have for IDW is on page 157. So I don't know if you have any others.
Well, go ahead.
This Dick Tracy book that they have solicited in here, where Lee and Michael Allred write it, and Rich Tomaso and Michael Allred are the artists, with Laura Allred as the colorist. It's almost like, even if you've never heard of Dick Tracy, you couldn't care less, to you it's an old property you're not interested in, just with that creative team, it's almost like you have to give it a shot.
Yeah, I've never been a big Dick Tracy fan, but with the Allreds on here, anything having or being done by the Allreds, I immediately at least take a look at it, no matter what it is.
Back in the day, I haven't gone to a really big comic convention in a couple of years, but I used to go to Baltimore Comic Con all the time, and I used to attend the Harvey Awards. Now they've been replaced with the Ringo Awards. I don't know if the Harvey Awards still exist at some other convention, but 2 years that I was there, Joe Staton and I forget who the writer is, they won for best newspaper strip for Dick Tracy. And the first year when they had won it, the first thing that I thought of was, Dick Tracy's still still being made. My paper, the Washington Post, actually has a comic section. And it's a pretty good comic section, but Dick Tracy isn't a part of it, so I didn't realize it was still being made. So that was a very eye-opening thing. So I checked it out on like Go Comics or one of those websites, and it is pretty good. And sometimes they throw other comic book references in there. In fact, they even sometimes team him up with other people like the Phantom or something like.
Really?
I forget. I mean, it may not have necessarily been the Phantom, but they'll throw some other characters in there, or pay homage to other properties and stuff like that. So it is kind of interesting.
That reminds me, there was a few years ago, I think maybe it was IDW. I'm probably wrong about that, but there was a King, was it King Features Syndicate?
Yes.
Right? Their properties, they did I think it was a miniseries where they teamed them all up in I
believe that was Dynamite.
Was it Dynamite?
Dynamite.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe Dynamite did that.
Yeah. And that was something I was interested in, but didn't order. And then I think I was, again, waiting for the trade, but I don't remember ever seeing one, or I decided not to. I don't know.
I read very recently, I have a couple of Dynamite trades, and I think I got a lot of them, the ones I have, for free as in my swag bag from the Harvey Awards. And one of them was Justice Incorporated, where it was the Shadow, Doc Savage, and the Avenger. And I had never read it. It's been sitting on the bookshelf, and I've had some car problems lately. So I had I wanted to read something that I wouldn't normally read. I didn't want to bring a comic. I didn't want to bring a book. I didn't want to even bring the newspaper. So I just grabbed something at random, and it happened to be that off the bookshelf. Threw it in my bag, thinking I'd be stuck at the mechanic for a while, and I wanted to read something. Turns out I didn't need to bring anything. The wait wasn't that long. But now that I had it off the bookshelf, I decided to read it one night. And I'll tell you, it was pretty good. But there's something about the pacing sometimes with books like that that's a little off, that all of a sudden something happens and you think, did I miss something? But you only went from panel to panel, and sometimes that happens, and I think it's because of the limited amount of space they have. I mean, it was a 6-issue miniseries, I think, originally, but maybe they wanted to flesh out more stuff and they just didn't have the space for it. And I find that sometimes in those types of miniseries like that, where they use those types of characters, where they want to try and give you a little backstory, a little exposition, but they don't have the space for it. So they're kind of hoping that you know certain things. And then when they reference those things that they're hoping that you know, it doesn't make any sense when you don't know it. Yeah. But it was an enjoyable read. So if anybody has it at their library or maybe at your comic book store, Justice Incorporated from Dynamite. Actually, is Dynamite next?
I have a few more things from IDW here.
Oh, good, please.
Impossible Incorporated, which is, I think, a new series.
Incorporated is a theme.
This is from writer J.M. DeMatteis and Mike Cavallaro. I just thought this was a neat sounding, kind of all ages book, adventure book. So there's a 17-year-old. Her name is Number Horowitz, and she has a team aboard a cosmic train called the Non-Local Express, riding across the quantum sea and into the infinite spiral that leads to other worlds, new dimensions, parallel universes, and through time itself. So think of a young Doctor Who type. Only the TARDIS is not a police phone box. It's this train. Anyway, it looks kind of cool, and I showed this to my granddaughter Madison, and she thought that she might like that. So I might be getting that eventually for her.
I love that your granddaughter. Well, at least one of your granddaughters likes comics, right? The other one is a little iffy on them. Yeah.
Yeah. Maddie's the comic lover. Yeah. Gabby will read him, but she's just whatever.
Yeah.
And then there was one more thing here. Oh yes, here it is. Have you ever read Alan Moore's From Hell?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're and Eddie Campbell, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So they're reissuing it. They're calling it the Master Edition.
Mm-hmm. Yet again, right? Yeah. All these classics, right? These classic comics.
And so, well, it's funny because there's another book in here I was going to mention too, and they did the same thing. They took this larger work. Because I have the black and white collection from many years ago that I read and it was a great read. But what they're doing is they're taking they're breaking it up and issuing it in serialized form. So this is issue 1 that contains the prologue, chapters 1 and 2, and some annotations. But they're also coloring it. Oh,
that's right. Yes, I do remember reading that. Right. Mm-hmm.
And so they did that with Rick Veitch's The One, which is in this preview.
I never read that. I never read that. Yeah, did you?
I read the black and white trade many years ago. In fact, I did so when CGS used to do their Book of the Month Club, and so they let us.
You would read along.
What's that?
You would read along.
Yeah. So they'd announce what books they're reading, and then you give you time to get them in and read them, and then you could follow along with them as they talked about it on a future episode. So
cool.
But yeah, they IDW did the same thing with The One, reissuing it in singles in color, and now they're trading it.
That's right. Yeah.
So
and they had a little interview with the artist in there, right? Maybe not in that section, but a little later in the book, I think they did.
Okay, yeah.
Focused on the horror stuff, because Halloween was coming, the next month.
Oh, yeah.
So they focused on horror in this issue.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I got for IDW.
Same here.
What's next on your list?
I think I skipped the Dynamite. Do we skip the Dynamite in the book now, or what's next?
That's next here.
Yeah, I have. I just have 2 things from Dynamite.
Me too.
It's probably the same too. So your show, I'll let you do it.
Well, no, you go first, because if it's what I think it is, you talk about that, and I'll talk about the other thing.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do the one on page 192.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
James Bond Origin.
Yeah.
Now, the James Bond miniseries that they've been putting out lately have been great. I haven't read them all, but the ones I have read are compelling, and I think I don't understand why there weren't more James Bond comics before they got this license.
Right.
And I just read the hardcover graphic novel version of Casino Royale, and man, that was good.
Was it?
It's been a while since I actually read a James Bond novel. I used to read them, in my 20s or 30s or whatever. So it's been a while, and I forgot some things about Casino Royale. And in fact, as much as the Daniel Craig version is, closer to the novel, I tend to like the spoofier one from the 60s.
Really?
The Casino. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe because I saw it first. It's has the sense of humor that I have. I don't know. But anyway, this seems pretty interesting. James Bond Origin, written by Jeff Parker.
Yeah,
and the
Jeff
artist
Parker.
is Rod Kuhn. Yeah, man. So I think this is a must-read.
I usually don't go for the whole, let's tell the origin of this established character that,
And I agree with you
because
because
it not have had in other media, but
yeah, I mean, well, think about all the fallout from Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
There, a lot of people complain that we didn't really need to see him win the Millennium Falcon, or we didn't need to know actually about his name. I didn't even know that was a thing until I saw the movie. So just certain things I can understand that, but still, this seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had read the Varger story, the first one that I think the first one that kicked off the property under these guys, and I really enjoyed it.
Me too, and it was a revelation. I mean, remember I was just talking about the pacing of Justice Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that could have had that pacing problem, and it didn't.
Right.
And none of the ones I have read, like I said, I haven't read them all. I've read about maybe half of the ones that have been out there. None of them have had that pacing problem, which could definitely very well exist for these licensed products.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy it. In fact, I thought of you because Viger, however you pronounce it, was like Star Trek, the motion picture.
V'ger.
It just made me think of V'ger. So that's what it made me think of.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, that I actually read Varger digitally because Comixology had a sale going on some time ago, and so I bought it really cheap. So I'm really hoping that they do that again, so I could catch up on some of these James Bond comics.
Yeah, the body looks like it could be an original one, and that's one of the ones I haven't read.
Oh, okay.
The one where I guess each issue focuses on some damage he's done to his body, like some part of his body. And that sounded like a great concept. I didn't buy it. Sorry, Dynamite. I wanted to buy it, but again, the comic budget is finite, and I couldn't work it in. But hopefully, I'll read it eventually.
So, what's your second thing from Dynamite?
On page 205, Project Superpowers.
Okay.
I'll admit I'm on the fence whether or not I'm going to buy this, but I'm interested in it. And that 10-cent introduction book that's coming out, I guess, this month. I'm definitely, for 10 cents. Okay, I'm in. You got it. Change back on a quarter. I can do that. I will, and I'll make a decision there because I like the original Superpowers. Now, I didn't get so much into all the follow-up stories that came afterwards, but that original Superpower series from, I guess, what did they say? It was like 10 years ago or whatever it was?
Something like that, yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Well, you have to let me know if you actually get into that. Let me know how it is.
And when it comes to IDW and Dynamite with all these licensed properties, I don't know if I said this on the last time I was on your show, but there's obviously a market for this stuff. And I wouldn't necessarily consider me part of that market, but I volunteered to help out my local comic shop, Comic Logic, for their anniversary. Which their third-year anniversary, which happened to be right before, a week or two before Free Comic Book Day. And as I was just like an extra set of eyes there, and I got questions about licensed comics. Somebody wanted to know about the latest Planet of the Apes miniseries. They want to know if they had any extra of issue number 5 of whatever it was. I got questions about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. And I'll admit I was surprised. I I didn't realize that so many people read them. But then again, if they didn't read them, they wouldn't be putting them out. So there are people reading them. I didn't know anybody personally that was actually reading these licensed comics in a consistent way.
Mm-hmm.
So it was refreshing. It was surprising, but it was pleasantly surprising.
Yeah. I've talked about this before too, but the only consistent licensed property comic I ever read has to do with Star Trek.
Yeah, right.
But I don't get into, for the most part, other licensed property stuff. And it's not that I don't like those properties, but for some reason, I don't know. I guess I don't need to see or read the further adventures of, X, Y, or Z in comic book form, which is weird. I don't know the
reason either. Yeah, it is kind of strange, isn't it? Especially with the way we are with how we like media. Yeah, it makes no sense. But I guess there's so much other stuff out there that we get into.
Well, that's exactly true. Yeah. Well, and I think part of it too is that for the licensed media or the licensed material that I have read in comic book form, I've always been, for the most part, kind of slightly disappointed. Because it's not quite like the thing that I watched.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I know what you mean.
The way that I remember it, right? So with the exception of the latest Star Trek comic from IDW.
I think I've said on your show and even my show before that I've been wondering even to this day why DC hasn't created a Big Bang Theory comic.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I would consume. Yet I was a very big Orphan Black fan. And when was it IDW who did Orphan Black? I think it was IDW. I had no interest in that, even though I was a big fan of the TV show. I don't know why. But then again, I think the Big Bang stuff could be more along the lines of like almost like a Warner Brothers cartoon comic as opposed to being connected to the overall Orphan Black universe, which was very serious. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think if you have a comic tied into a comedy, like the old Partridge Family or the Get Smart comics or the Beatles or the Monkees or whatever, that lends itself to more fun than something focusing on like the Orphan Black. Again, even though I was a big fan of the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Eric, what's next?
Well, the only other thing I have here for Dynamite, it has nothing to do. It's not a comic, I should say. But it's related to one. I might have to get the Uncanny T-shirt with art by Jock, because I loved those two miniseries, Uncanny.
Yeah,
did you read those?
No.
Oh man!
But I mean, I saw the T-shirt, and to be honest with you, I know nothing about that.
Yeah, so that's a series written by Andy Diggle.
Mm-hmm.
Was it done by Jock? Art done by Jock? I can't remember now. They also have the Uncanny trading cards on the same page. This is page 212 in the catalog.
Well, what was it about the series that, any series can have a T-shirt, but what merits the trading cards?
Honestly, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure about that. Other than, some great art. There's art by Jock, of course, Sean Phillips, Dan Panosian, Ben Oliver, Aaron Campbell. I'm not into the trading card thing, but the art looks nice though. But that T-shirt, man, I don't need any more T-shirts.
Yeah, right. Me neither. Although, listen, like I said, I haven't gone to New York Comic Con in years, and I got this last year through the mail. This Super Grover New York Comic Con T-shirt. So plenty of T-shirts that I don't need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I understand. All right. So what publisher is next, Eric?
Well, for me,
come through.
I don't have anything for Boom.
Oh, actually, I have a couple of things. I'll mention them real quick. Okay. When it comes down to it, certain publishers have a certain feel to them. For instance, it's not surprising something like Project Superpowers falls under the umbrella of Dynamite Publishing, whereas some of the things I'm going to talk about here with Boom, it's not very surprising they're under Boom, and some things that are under Image or Image. It just seems like there's a feel now. Publishers are trying to define themselves by a particular feel. And this book here on page 226, Pandora's Legacy, an original graphic novel softcover. Now, I've noticed that there are a lot of these original graphic novels coming out. and I applaud that because I think there's something to be said about having the complete story with under the cover, beginning to end, and the focus. This looks like, I'm not going to say all ages, but it looks like, let's see, is there a rating here? I know they give you ratings sometimes, but I don't see one. But I could see young teen reading a book like this. What starts out as a typical family vacation to grandma and grandpa's quickly erupts into supernatural mystery and peril when three siblings accidentally break an old mystical jar hidden deep in the woods, revealing they are descendants of Pandora. Dun, dun, dun.
That sounds like a really cool premise, doesn't it?
Hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, George is funny because I had this on my list, but in an effort to try and pare it down a little bit, I took this off. So I'm glad you mentioned it. And
I'm wondering, did you? Well, you said nothing for Boom. What about Welcome to Wonderland, number 1 of 4 by Jackie Ball and Maddie Gonzalez? The main character knows everything there is to know about Wonderland. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Welcome to Wonderland, not Wonderland. Knows everything there is to know about Wonderland Park. She knows all the iconic rides when they were built, so when she winds up in the real version of Wonderland with real princesses and adorable talking woodland creatures, she's sure that she has got this, but of course, once again, hilarity ensues for 4 issues. So that seems like as if you go to Disney World and all of a sudden there's a real Cinderella in the castle and
right.
Dumbo's flying in the air and magic carpets and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Another thing that I found interesting was Peanuts, Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, a graphic novel adaptation of the animated special from, I guess, the 70s. I'm not sure. So any Peanuts fans out there, check that out. And under the Archaea umbrella, they've got an original graphic novel hardcover called Form of a Question by Andrew Rostand and Kate Kaesnow and Jenna Ayub. Andrew Rostand is excellent at remembering facts and recalling the memories he associates with those facts, memories of deaths in the family and extraordinary people at the age of 22, and suddenly a contestant on the very game show he associates with the happiest moments in his life. He's about to realize that existence is like Jeopardy and that all the answers are staring you in the face if only you ask the right questions. So it's a memoir, and I'm finding that I'm liking graphic adaptations of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What page was that?
That was on page 231. And for the most part, when I bring up a lot of these things, I say I'm probably not going to get this, even though it's interesting, budget, just so much space in the house now at this point. But this book seems pretty interesting. So this is kind of at the top of my could possibly be bought in September list.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody's watching this. I haven't watched this, but there is an original graphic novel softcover of Wet Hot American Summer, the beloved cult classic. So,
which I've never seen.
I haven't either. Again, for Boom, Mech Cadet U, number 12, the series finale. I have enjoyed this series. It was on my pull list when it was a mini-series, and then when it was increased to an ongoing, at least for I mean, basically now it's a maxi series. I've enjoyed it, and I'm curious to see where it goes and where it ends up.
Mm-hmm.
By Greg Pak and Takeshi Mawazaka. I just butchered that because I put consonants there that weren't there. And I apologize profusely.
It's only because you care, George.
Yes. And one last thing for Boom. I read Giant Days, but in trade format. It's one of the few things I read strictly in trade. But Giant Days number 42 is coming out. And Giant Days, the hardcover compilation of some of the trades is coming out. I don't buy the hardcover. I buy the trades, but that's all solicited on page 243. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed Giant Days. So yeah, I guess I had more interesting things for Boom than I thought.
Yeah, good.
All right, now as we turn pages in this, all right, I'll tell you, I don't have anything until, wait, what is this? I don't have anything until, we get to the traditional back of the book at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you start with your next stuff?
The Strangers in Paradise 25, Volume 1, the Chase
How's
trade
that-
paperback.
How's that going? Have you been reading it in issue
yeah.
format?
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Enjoying it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's not what I would have expected based on what the old series is like. I mean, there are elements directly from that old series, but given how the Strangers in Paradise focused on the relationship between Kachu and Francine as much as it did, that's not what we're getting here. So, but it's still a very interesting story. And if you're a fan of Strangers in Paradise, I can understand why you wouldn't be reading the 25-year anniversary of the series.
Right. And in fact, you were probably waiting with bated breath for that to come out, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, anything by Terry Moore, it doesn't matter to me what it is. I'll read it.
Well, around that section of the previews book on pages 258 and 259, I only call these to your attention because of the homages on the cover for all you Crisis kids, you and Peter Rios in particular. Crisis on Infinite Cerebi, is that how Cerebus would be the plural of Cerebus?
Cerebi.
Cerebi.
Yeah.
Crisis on Infinite Earths type cover there. And Althena Voltaire, number 7. There, one of the variant covers, it looks like, is an homage to the covers from Days of Future Past from the X-Men.
Yep.
Would that be X-Men 241 or something like that, or 242? So, So anyway, just to call attention to those covers.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And then I would wonder, they're soliciting stuff that is Halloween themed, coming out in September. And on page 260 for Action Lab, there's this book called Vamplettes, the Undead Pet Society. Oh, Vamplettes, the Undead Pet Society, Beware the Bitmares one shot. And it does have the kid-friendly stamp on it. So it does make me wonder if, that might be something for the kids to read, if you have any children, listeners out there. And they're also soliciting Vamplettes, the Nightmare Nursery hardcovers. I've never read these books before, but they have that kid stamp, and I'm always interested in things that are being solicited to kids. I don't have any children, but if I did, I might be purchasing this for them. As opposed to purchasing Black Betty on page 262 as an example.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next page you have highlighted, Eric?
276. This is from Aftershock.
Okay, Aftershock.
Mm-hmm. Again, another trade that for a series that I wanted to get but decided to wait for a trade. I'm actually really enjoying reading the Aftershock series that they've been coming out with in trade. And this is no different. Monstro Mechanica by Paul Aller and Chris Evenhuis.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize for my pronunciations, but this is the first arc of the series. It just looks cool, and I really like comics that take historical characters and extrapolate or just totally fictionalize elements of their lives. And this is no different. This is the story is about Leonardo da Vinci's apprentice and her 9-foot-tall mechanical bodyguard. So that's where the Mechanica stuff comes in. But I don't know. The cover art looks pretty cool, and the premise sounds really interesting. So I'll probably be getting that one.
In issue format, a new series starting by Ted Anderson and Jen Hickman. It's called Moth and Whisper, number 1 on page 269. So, of course, I think about you when you talk about things like Hawk and Dove and Rosenthorn and things like that from the classic DC days. And this one here seemed kind of interesting, and I don't know. I gave Rough Riders a shot from Aftershock, and as some of your listeners know, I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
And this Moth and Whisper, I'll give it a shot. There are some other series out there that have been interesting. I just haven't pulled the trigger on them, but I might pull the trigger on this one.
This was on my the list before, and I cut it for time. But again, I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, I'm only going to bring this up real quick. it looks like there's a new publisher out there, another new publisher called Ahoy Comics on page 278. Did you look at this?
Yep, that was my next thing.
High Heaven and especially The Wrong Earth,
Yep.
number one. Both of those look like they could be a lot of fun. I mean, The Wrong Earth, is that one of the ones that you had checked off?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, and, in large part because Jamal Igle is doing the art, and I really like his work.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, the premise of, what is it? The gritty superhero and the more, Ahoy Comics launches with a biting superhero satire. On one world, Dragonfly Man and his sidekick Stinger enjoy a life of adventure. On another Earth, the Dragonfly hunts criminal parasites like a lethal exterminator. But what happens when these two heroes change places? Eric, you know what happens. Hilarity ensues.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that sounds really cool.
And this one about High Heaven, where a chronic malcontent dies and goes to heaven, but he's not happy there or something like that. Like it's kind of strange. I don't know. And then they've got coming next month Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror. Mark Russell will be doing the writing. Mark Russell from Flintstones fame. And then you have Captain Ginger. Looks like I'm not going to say it. Yeah, I don't know if it's a totally anthropomorphic series, but Captain Ginger looks like he's a cat. And by Stuart Moore and June Brigman.
Did you notice in those two books, Grant Morrison is contributing a text story?
I saw that on High Heaven. He's doing one also for The Wrong Earth.
He is.
Wow. Yeah.
So these are 40-page books for $3.99, and you're getting extra stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I might pull the trigger.
Well, I'm going to be getting the Wrong Earth.
It seems like a fun concept, doesn't it? All right. The next thing I have is with Alterna Comics on page 263. Do you have anything there?
Nope. Go ahead.
Or before that?
I don't believe so.
I don't know anything about Alterna except that they print on newsprint. That's all I know about them. And didn't you delve into one of their sidekick type stories? I forget the name of it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I did. And I'm also blanking on the name for some reason. Oh, Amazing Age, I think it was.
And didn't you enjoy it?
I did. Yeah.
Uh-huh. At my local comic shop this week, I bought Metaphase, number 1 of 2, my first Alterna comic. It's about a kid with Down syndrome that, at least as of right now, doesn't have superpowers, but I think eventually gets superpowers. It's only a 2-issue miniseries, so, I mean, if he doesn't have them by now, he's going to have them by next issue, right? But for $1.50, I'm willing to take a shot. Well, I'm also willing to take a shot with Psycho KO. I'm unfamiliar with this. I don't know if this is something from Adult Swim. It has an Adult Swim feel to it just on the covers. And number 2 is being solicited in this book. It's by Rob Feldman. I haven't bought number 1 yet. So I am a little curious about this book. And I know nothing about it. I didn't look it up. I'm just going to go in blind. And again, for $1.50, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice thing about Alterna's books. You know, you may not necessarily be all that excited about it, but you also haven't wasted a lot of money on it either.
Yeah, right. And I got to admit, Metaphase was a fun read. It did have the feel of an old time comic. I've got something quick on page 290. Do you have anything before page 290?
Nope, I am further back than that. So go ahead.
All right. There's a book from, I guess it's Amigo Comics, again stamped with a kid-friendly stamp called Welcome Home, One Shot. This family is full of people, father, mother, grandfather, 3 kids, and almost 1 pet per person. They've decided to adopt, part of my paper shuffling here, they have decided to adopt a kitten to be completely happy, and the daughter will be in charge of the cat. After a warm welcoming, sure, the kitten feels happy within her new family. It just seems like a warm, loving book. I'm not quite sure hilarity ensues, but it just looks like a fun book for kids. with family and pets. It looks like it has a positive story. I don't think there's anything sarcastic about it, or if there is, maybe it's. I mean, there might be some hijinks in there, but I really think it looks like some good family fun. And on the next page, Eric, these are publishers I know nothing about. I'm going to say that right now. But sometimes they put something out that I find interesting, and this one here is from Antarctic Press. Have you ever bought anything from Antarctic Press? I mean, I've heard of them before. So. I always check out at least some of their solicits. But this one called William the Last. A young boy grows up with his grandfather on a deserted island, and upon his grandfather's death, he climbs to the top of the island mountain to find himself in a land where the people are in hiding, a tyrant rules, and his own name has been forbidden from being spoken. He's William the Last, and this is from Brian Shearer. Again, a creator I don't know, but seems like an interesting concept.
Yeah.
See, all those other shows are talking Batman. That's not what we do here. We'll talk later about Batman, but not now. So I've been doing all the talking right now. What is your next one?
Well, my next one is from Humanoids. So if there's stuff before Humanoids on page 358.
Okay, then I'm going to go fast. Archie, 1941, number 1.
Oh,
Didn't
true.
interest
Yeah,
me?
there you go.
Okay. By Mark Waid and Brian Augustyn.
Yeah,
by Peter Krause.
In fact, I just listened to an interview with Mark Waid where he was talking about that series.
Oh, really?
And I
okay.
thought, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun too.
And on my current pull list is Archie meets Batman 66. Anything with the Batman 66 franchise, I'm digging. And you throw in Jeff Parker. You have Dan Parent, covers by Michael Allred and a ton of other people. I mean, again, how could you go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
That's a heck of a lot of fun right there. So that's on my pull list. You know what? I'm just going to skip all this stuff here. Have you ever gotten into like real true horror comics, like from Avatar Press or any of that garbage? And I shouldn't say garbage. I don't mean it like that. Any of that stuff.
Right.
Have you ever gotten anything? Because I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Me either. And I think we've talked about this before.
Okay.
I don't know if we talked about it on air, but yeah, there's certain horror type stories that I just have no taste for.
Yeah.
And I have gotten a couple over the years. I think the last thing that I read was the Alan Moore book, Neonicom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no thank you. That's not something I care.
And you talk about a publisher having a certain feel to their books.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Or now, okay. Parents, cover your kids' ears. Boundless. I mean, have you seen the Boundless section in here?
I see it as I quickly page page past it.
Yes. I mean, you talk about branding yourself, right? That's something.
Yeah, that's right. It's something.
Yeah, pretty much. You want to talk explicit? My goodness.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'll admit there's some stuff under Black Mass that interests me. What was the page that you're going to?
358.
All right, so I'm just going to even listen, folks. I'll tell you what. In the interest of time, if you've got previews in front of you and you're following along, check out the solicits on page 314 for Breathless Volume 1 from Black Mask. And for Bongo Comics on page 316, Chief Wiggum's Felonious Funnies. If you're a Simpsons fan, that should be a lot of fun. Something I got into from Free Comic Book Day is Die Kitty Die. And they've got Die Kitty Die Heaven and Hell from Dan Parent and Fernando Ruiz on page 325. Continuing all the fun Die Kitty Die stuff. And I think, and then on page 328 from Dead Reckoning, The Best of Don Winslow of the Navy, Volume 1 hardcover. I didn't even know this comic strip existed. Don Winslow of the Navy. And just reading the little blurb about this. It seems an interesting read just for a historical perspective. I mean, at $30, so at $29.95, I'm not quite sure I'm picking it up, but just the fact that I now know that it exists, I might be on the lookout if it's ever on a bargain sale or something like that. Because let's face it, what's the market for that, right? I nothing against it or anything like that, but unless you're a true historian of comics, how many people are going to be interested in that? So you never know, you might catch it on a sale sometime. On page 343, Exhibit A Press, Supernatural Law, grandfathered in trade paperback. I've never read any of the Supernatural Law stuff. Have you, by Batten Lash?
No.
Okay, I've always been interested in it. I never have, and of course now with Halloween coming up, it's just a natural thing to put out there. I'm also a big Bride of Frankenstein fan when it comes to the Universal Monsters, and there are a couple of Universal Monsters T-shirts. Talk about, do you really need another T-shirt?
Right.
On page 343, there is a Bride T-shirt, among others.
Oh, cool.
So the Bride is on my radar.
What does your wife think of that?
Oh, she loves it.
Okay.
In fact, she was the Bride of Frankenstein one year for Halloween. And the big joke is what we should do. And that year I wasn't Frankenstein. I was dressed as the Joker from the Batman 1989 movie.
Oh, okay.
But the big joke is I should dress as the Bride and she should dress as Frankenstein. That's something she wants to do.
Oh, that's cool.
We haven't done it yet, and if we ever do, you'll definitely see it on social media. Heck, you might see it on the news. On page 353, did I get to your page yet?
Not quite. You're almost there.
RX, a graphic memoir. This is just something, I'm not quite sure it's about the opioid epidemic, but it is about somebody who's, I'll read it real quick. In her early 20s, diagnosed with bipolar disorder, Rachel Lindsay, the author of this memoir, takes a job in advertising in order to secure healthcare coverage. But work takes a strange turn when she is promoted onto the Pfizer account and suddenly finds herself on the other side of the curtain, developing ads for an antidepressant drug. Not like I'm into the whole opioid crisis or anything like that everybody's talking about, but I just find that interesting. Bipolar disorder. I like the psychology, our own human psychology, and just to hear something like that from the person who is suffering from the bipolar disorder, talk about their experience. Again, in a memoir. It's a memoir, but in a graphic novel format.
Yeah.
I find that stuff interesting. I'm thumbing through real fast here. All right. Again, if you want to get a little political, I guess, the unwanted stories of Syrian refugees on page 357 from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing. I've never heard of them before. And then on the next page on 358, Maryland's Monsters, the famous Hollywood Hills, a strange twisted forest filled with freaks and broken down trailers. In this dark world, shy Norma Jean Baker, Marilyn Monroe comes to this ghost town with hopes and dreams. Unfortunately, she'll have to face all kinds of monsters to reach her ultimate goal. I'm a Marilyn Monroe fan, so I again, kind of interesting.
Yeah. I wonder what the family of these people whose likenesses are being used in this way, what they think about this kind of stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, you know what? That is a good question. On the same page on 358, from Humanoids, you said you had something from Humanoids?
I do, actually.
Actually, Marilyn's Monsters, I think, is from Humanoids. So I've caught up to your stuff. So what is your Humanoids item?
Just one thing. I Am Legion.
Oh, okay.
By Fabian Nuri and John Cassaday. And I only mention this, George, because I actually ordered this book back in 2015. It's still on my DCBS order as unshipped item.
Now, I don't understand that. Have you ever spoken to customer service about that? Because for my birthday and Christmas a year or so ago, I got gift certificates. So I was ordering primarily graphic novels and odd stuff from the back of the book from them. And I experienced that too, but I've never contacted them about these things. I've perennially been on my unshipped list. So have you ever contacted them about that?
No, mostly because like, well, I don't, if it, I figure that they haven't shipped it because for whatever reason, the publisher never actually came out with it.
Hmm.
And it's one more thing that I don't have to pay for just yet. But I'm thinking now, with this being solicited again 3 years later, maybe
you'll see
I'll get it.
Well, see, I don't know how accurate that is, though, Eric, because there was I don't read much I don't read anything from Valiant really, but there was a one shot about. Now I'm trying to remember the premise of Murd from Comic Geek Speak had it as like one of his favorites of last year. It was something about a tale like from the Knights of the Round Table where a headless knight comes in and challenges the knights or something like that. It had to do, I think, with Armstrong from Archer and Armstrong because he's immortal, or maybe one of his brothers or something like that.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I got that.
See, I didn't get it, but I ordered it. And I know it came out because Murd said he read it. I didn't necessarily see it in my local comic shop, but Murd talked about it. And I just figured it was one of those things that never happened because it was a one-shot. And when he talked about it, not only that he read it, but it was one of his favorites. I was a little upset that I didn't get a chance to read it, and then B, I was like, okay, so why is it just sitting, if it came out, why didn't I get it? And I wonder if maybe I placed the order too late in the month or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how it all works.
I was just going to say, I've heard from other people that I know that uses DCBS in particular, but this happens with any shop that you're dealing with, where, they only order so many copies and first come, first serve. So if there are five people who ordered it and there's only 3 copies,
exactly.
If you're number 4 and 5, you're out of luck.
Yeah, you're right. So that's been sitting on my list all year. Also from Humanoid, Kabul Disco Volume 2, How I Managed Not to Get Addicted to Opium in Afghanistan graphic novel. Again, a memoir. Sounds kind of interesting. I'd like to give it a shot. Again, each one of these things costs, this one in particular, $19.95. Something else could be $29.95. It all adds up. So I'll have to make that hard choice. If I order maybe one from my local comic shop, I have to make that choice. Which one is it going to be?
Well,
this one sounds interesting.
Did you notice though? It says 2 of 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it did say Volume 2 at the top, and it does. I'm unfamiliar with Volume 1.
Right.
Well, actually, maybe that helps me make the decision. If I don't have Volume 1, maybe Volume 2.
That's why I wanted to point that out, just in case.
I have something on 363, My Beijing, 4 Stories of Everyday Wonder graphic novel. Again, something off the beaten path that sounds like it could be very interesting. And this one's only $9.99. So, maybe that might be the one splurge I make.
Yeah, that's another kid-friendly book, it says.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Eric? What else you got going on?
Do you have anything for Lion Forge?
You know what? I in the interest of time, I did skip over it, but Upgrade Soul did kind of sound kind of interesting to me. So I will let you talk about it since you're agreeing with me.
That was the one I have. One of the 2 things I have on here from Lion Forge. Just this idea of, it says for their 45th anniversary, Hank and Molly decide to undergo an experimental rejuvenation procedure. But their hopes for youth are dashed when the couple is faced with the results. Severely disfigured yet intellectually and physically superior duplicates of themselves. So the premise just sounds really interesting.
Yep.
The art's a little not my taste, but it's not bad or anything. It's just not what I normally gravitate towards. But that idea just sounds really cool.
272 pages for $20.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, ages 14 and up. Yeah, not bad at all.
And then a couple pages later, I guess a few pages later, let me find it here. Fraternity by Jose Luis Munera. Munuera. Oh, that's interesting. This is 128 pages for $20. But it says here it's a haunting horror story written by Juan Diaz Canales, the co-creator of the popular Black Sad series.
Oh.
And it has to do with the American Civil War. There's a feral beast that is stalking the forest around the town. I know, just the cover image there and some of the preview art looks really cool. But it was the co-creator of the popular Black Sad series that kind of pulled me in.
Did you ever read that?
No, but I have it. I bought it. Really? I bought the first volume through Comixology during one of the sales, and so I intend to read that one day when I have some time. But I've always heard it's good, so And here's this.
Neat. I mean, blind. What do they call their kid books here? Their other imprint, Caracal. I don't even know what that means. But Encounter by Art Baltazar, Franco, and Chris Giarrusso. I like that book. I picked up the first two issues of that and shared them with my nephew. And I got to be honest with you, I wish my younger nephew and niece were as much into reading and comics as my nephew Frankie was when he was about their age. Mm-hmm. I get them stuff. I bring them to Free Comic Book Day. It's almost like I got to drag them to the comic book store, and they want. You know what? They're actually cheap dates. They don't want anything when we go to the comic book store. Not even toys. Or thank goodness they don't want toys, right?
Yeah.
Because at a comic book store, the action figures there are, they're collectibles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't force them. But like your other your one granddaughter loves comics. The other one's like meh about it. You can't force them, right?
Right.
To love what you love.
I'm glad you mentioned that though, Encounter, because I didn't realize that the first volume, the trade, was out.
Yes.
Or solicited here. So because that was a comic that I was kind of looking for, the trade.
Mm-hmm,
so yeah, thanks for that.
Oh, no problem.
I just thought that was I thought they were doing double shipping for some reason when I paged through the book.
I don't have anything till page 389 with Oni Press.
Is it Shadow Roads?
It is not. So please tell us about Shadow Roads.
Well, this is the new book by Colin Bunn and Brian Hurt of Sixth Gun fame. Mm-hmm. I read the Free Comic Book Day issue
of this
of Shadow Roads, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to get this. And then I forgot to order issue 1. I don't know how. It happens occasionally.
Yes, believe me, I know, and I think all your listeners have been a victim of that too.
Yeah, experienced that. Mm-hmm. But I emailed DCBS and asked them to put it on my list.
Cool.
Thinking what we were talking about earlier, that I may not get it.
Oh, right.
But it's on the list, and I think it's coming to me next week in my next shipment.
Oh, cool.
I want to say, so I'm very thankful about that. But here's a third, and it's a limited series, only 10 issues, but I really enjoyed it. It was really good.
Yeah, that's not a bad commitment. The thing I had from Oni Press is something that while I'm not buying it, but I think we brought up the last time you and I were together, because I think it was 2 months ago we did a preview. So number 1 of this would have come out. Right. And this is the Long Con.
Yeah.
It's that comic convention that doesn't end for whatever reason. I forgot the reason. But the reason I bring it up is I thought you said you were interested in it, and I wanted to ask you if you were purchasing it. But part of the solicit on page 389 says, plus a flashback reveals the super secret origins of boob windows. I might just have to get issue number 3 for that. Listen, I'm a fan of Power Girl, so hey, boob windows.
Yeah,
yeah. If I can get the super secret origin of those, who knew that I would find that in the Long Con number 3 of 10 from Oni Press? Right.
Comics are a surprise each and every month.
Yeah. So are you getting that miniseries?
No,
all joking aside, no. You decided not to do it.
Yeah, I decided not to get that.
All right. But listeners, if you want to do it, Oni Press isn't paying us anything, but go for it anyway if you want to.
I have nothing until Valiant.
Okay, so then I'm just going to skip ahead. Under all these publishers seem to have all these other sub-publishing imprints underneath them. And one of the ones under Oni is called Limerence Press. And the same people who brought you Oh Joy Sex Toy are bringing you Drawn to Sex, the Basics. So I know this is a family show, and we're just going to keep going on, although it's from Erica Moen and Matthew Nolan. Let's see. Was there anything else here? No. And we can pass that. Oh, on page 396 from Pantheon Books, the Marvel version of Alex Ross's Marvel work called Marvelocity is coming out. $50 book. What was the one for DC? I forgot. What was it? Was just Mythology.
Mythology. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I guess maybe this was long awaited. I always thought that there was one, but I guess there wasn't one. I guess there was never a Marvel equivalent to Mythology until now.
Yeah, I would love to get that. So, like you mentioned earlier, if I can find it at a bargain sale or something, I'd love to get that.
Sometimes you get lucky if you still have a brick and mortar Barnes and Noble by your house. 6 months from now, a year from now, sometimes you can find these at maybe half price.
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
Lucky. Yeah,
exactly.
That's why we still need brick and mortar, folks. Go over there. Don't just order online. That's why we still need local comic shops and stuff. Yeah, but that looks like a beautiful book. What was the next page you said you had?
434, Valiant.
Oh, yeah, right, Valiant. So why do I have this page here? Oh, again, I like my memoirs. I like my my biography books. I buy. There have been a lot of Beatles-related graphic novels, not just one from Vivek Tiwari about Brian Epstein, the fifth Beatle, but there have been plenty of other ones out there that I bought over the past couple of years. There's a Ramones one on page 407 called 1, 2, 3, 4 Ramones. That one looks pretty interesting to me, although I'll admit, even though it's interesting to me, I'm probably not going to buy it. And I guess we have to say, from Titan Books, looks like the 13th Doctor is coming out.
Yep.
13th Doctor number 0, plus there's the 12th Doctor, the Peter Capaldi version. So two of those books coming out from Titan Books. I know you and your family are as much probably salivating even more than I am for a new season of Doctor Who.
For sure, yeah. Me and Madison, yeah. She really likes Doctor Who, and she finds it really strange that the Doctor is going to be female now.
Really?
Because I mean, all she's ever known is Matt Smith and then Peter Capaldi.
Sure, right.
I mean, she knows the Doctor regenerates, and she knows about we've talked about the previous versions of the Doctor and whatnot, but the idea that it's a girl now, I would think that she would think that would be really cool, but she thinks it's weird.
Right. Well, out of the mouths of kids, right? Yeah. Titan is also putting out I'm going to use air quotes here. Nobody can see them. An edgy adaptation of Batman: The Killing Joke.
Oh.
Looks like a prose novel of it.
No, thank you. Then
there's a prose novel from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar called Mycroft and Sherlock, I guess on the heels of his graphic novel that he wrote, Mycroft Holmes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so this one is Mycroft and Sherlock, and it's a prose novel.
Ah. Huh.
Titan Books. So I'm a fan of most things Sherlock Holmes, so I might be interested in that. And I just have to bring this up. On page 429, a publisher called T-Pub, Stan Lee's Lucky Man, The Bracelet Chronicles. I mean, Stan Lee's still churning out these D-level books? I don't understand. Aren't cameos in the Marvel movies enough for this guy? Well, anyway, I'm not shooting it down. If anybody's trying it out, let Eric know on his page whether or not you're reading it and if you like it. All right, Valiant, go for it, my friend. It's your show.
Just one thing to mention here, because I know how popular the Faith series, the previous Faith series was. I read the first issue I got, or a 0 issue, I can't remember now, but I really enjoyed it. I still didn't continue with it, but there's a new series now, Faith Dreamside, written by Jody Houser, which that's a big draw for me. So, if people liked the old Faith series, then here's another one for you.
I read the Faith series in trade paperback form. I read the Death-Defying Dr. Mirage in trade pack. These are like the very few Valiant books I've read. And I see Dr. Mirage will be in this book. And I also read Faith in the Future Force. And if I recall correctly, that Faith in the Future Force series, which I did buy in issue format, suffered from that pacing problem I told you about with Justice Incorporated and some of the licensed material that I've read in the past. And it kind of turned me off a little bit. And I don't know if because I'm not as familiar with the universe, and maybe you needed to have a foot deeper in than I have. But I thought that miniseries suffered from the pacing problems. So hopefully this one won't.
Yeah.
I enjoy both. What little I've read of those two characters. I mean, I don't know how many other things Dr. Mirage has appeared in, but I did like that trade paperback.
Yeah, I read, again, I think it was a Free Comic Book Day preview of that series from a few years back, and I really like that.
I'll admit, I only have one more thing to bring up before the book flips around to to another side. But I've dipped my toe into the manga world. And I have been looking at these manga solicits that they have in the back of the book now. And one that caught my eye, which again, sorry publishers, I will not be purchasing it, but I do bring it to your attention. It's called The Delinquent Housewife, Volume 1, on page 487. A family comedy manga about a high school boy and his sister-in-law who moves in, who has a big secret from her past. And of course, hilarity ensues.
Of course.
Well, I mean, it does say it's a family comedy. So in this case, I think hilarity may truly ensue. And that's all I've got.
Yep, that's all I got for this book, or this part of preview. So shall we jump over to Marvel?
Sure. Although, very quickly, did you see that Catwoman PVC diorama on page 17 on the flip side? I mean, I know you're a big Bat and Cat fan with what's going on in Batman these days. I mean, that Catwoman statue is beautiful.
Which page was that?
Oh, that was page 17 on the flip side.
Okay. I'm sure I saw it. I just don't remember what it looked like at the moment.
And some of these
okay.
I mean, these DC collectibles, like on page 26 and 27, Nightwing and Batgirl, where you can actually hang this thing upside down so that they're suspended from like a bat rope type of thing.
That looks pretty neat too.
I mean, it's $250. I mean, you can't.
See, that's why I just kind of breeze past these pages. It's like, oh, that looks neat. And then I just keep going because there's no way I can afford this stuff.
There's a Harley Quinn pink, white, and black statue on page 27 right across from that Nightwing Batgirl statue. This one's $80. And that's a beautiful one. It reminds me of a Batgirl statue from last issue that was geared toward the holidays because I think it was colored green and red or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I think it was done in the same style as this one. So, I mean, they come out with great stuff, man. I mean, A, you have to have room for it. B, you got to have the money for it. And I'm not at that point in my life where I have either.
Yeah, right.
I've got no space. I've got no disposable income. But boy, is it nice to look at. I got to tell you, when I go into my local comic shop and they've got some of this stuff on display. I mean, they don't order much of it, but they order some. And man, it does make me drool.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and did you notice in the apparel section the Legion of Doom and the Hall of Justice T-shirts?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Like we need more T-shirts.
Exactly.
All right, DC and Marvel. I'm going to let you helm this because I've done all the talking at the back of the book.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of trades when it comes to the DC and Marvel stuff.
Which one are we going to start with?
Let's start with Marvel.
Okay.
But so that's really all I have for Marvel, except for, which is on the front cover of the Marvel previews catalog, The Return of Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
He's back, bub. And I don't know how much you care about Wolverine. He's been gone for a little while, and they bring him back. It's written by Charles Soule with art by Steve McNiven. So great creative team for this miniseries.
Yeah. In fact, he's the one who killed him off, right? I mean, he did that Death of Wolverine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. But it's, I'm not going to get this, but there's a lot of Wolverine fans out there.
How weird is it? We're
chomping at the bit to have this back or have it back.
How weird is it that we're talking previews and 90% of the time we're saying we're not going to buy it? I know, right? But you can, right? But I mean, it just goes to show how much interesting, fun stuff there is out there, right? Oh
yeah, for sure.
And I mean, everybody knows. I mean, they give you the dollar figure at the beginning of the book. You know how many $30,000 or whatever it is for the 3,000 items in the book or whatever it winds up being. So everybody knows we all have a limited amount in the wallet and the pocketbook. So I think it's understandable. When it comes to Marvel, I think I'll just go through the pull list real quick. I still collect Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Brandon Montclair and Natasha Bustos. In fact, this storyline, Save Our School, the past couple of covers looks like cartooning is superimposed over real life photographs, which I guess is tying the story together in some way. The last issue I bought introduced Princess Fisk into the Moon Girl, into the Marvel universe. And when I bought it, Rich at the local comic shop said, "Man, there are a lot of speculators buying this book."
Really?
And he said, "You're lucky you got this copy." And then Rob, also from the store, said, "Well, that's on George's pull list. That's why he got it." And he was like, and I asked why. And then I said, "Is it because of Princess Fisk?" And he said, "Yeah, people think something's going to happen with Princess Fisk. So all you speculators out there, get that issue of, I forget what number it was, but find that issue of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur."
I am so clueless as to that kind of stuff. I buy the comics I want to read, and I don't think about, well, is this going to be a hot property at some point?
Exactly. Right. There's a Journey into Mystery, The Birth of Krakoa. It's a 40-page one-shot by Dennis Hopeless and Jabril Morissette Fan. As World War II draws to a close, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos face a mission unlike any other. So Krakoa, if I'm pronouncing it right, Krakoa, that's from Giant Size X-Men #1, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that The Living Island? And I'm a big Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos fan, so I definitely dig that. And then this Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1 just seems kind of interesting by Saladin Ahmed and Gary Brown. Years ago, Spider-Man came back from the Secret Wars with the alien symbiote, and apparently, when Peter Parker would go to sleep, the symbiote would take control and make him have adventures. So supposedly, these are adventures from back in the day.
Right.
I'm adding Fantastic Four to my pull list, so Fantastic Four #2 comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel 2-in-1 #10, and I'm hoping this series continues, even though the Fantastic Four is going to be back. I hope it continues much in the vein as the classic Marvel 2-in-1, where the Thing would team up with other people besides the Human Torch.
That's what I thought, where I thought they were going to go with that series, but then they kept the two together up to this point. So
yeah.
Either way, I think did I order? Yeah, I think I ordered the first trade of that. I'm looking forward to reading that book.
And Exiles #8 comes out. Exiles has been on my pull list. I didn't read the original Exiles series from the 90s, but this one has been a lot of fun to read. And that's my Marvel stuff.
I just want to point out there's the new series by Cullen Bunn and Matteo Lolli, as Guardians of the Galaxy, which I thought was a great play on the Guardians of the Galaxy.
And it makes you think, why did nobody ever do that before?
Right?
Has anybody?
Exactly.
Right? It's almost like it's too obvious.
So you've got Angela, Valkyrie, which I always like to see Valkyrie in Marvel Comics. Scourge, Throg, the mightiest frog of thunder. I mean, come on, Throg. Who else? Thunderstrike and the Destroyer are all in this.
Now, okay, so first of all, having Throg in there is almost like having Detective Chimp in a DC series.
Yeah, right.
And having the Destroyer in there is like having Darkseid in that Justice League Odyssey book, isn't it? So,
yeah, good point.
So maybe Marvel's doing DC now, like right? Like you were saying, DC's doing Marvel for those Age of Heroes books that you're reviewing.
I just think that might be a lot of fun. So I'll get the trade of that eventually. And then speaking of trades, I was never a Conan the Barbarian fan, but man, Barry Windsor Smith art, Gil Kane and John Buscema. I mean, come on.
That's like that's a volume one. Right?
That's a hardcover on sale in actually January 2019. So what is it? $125.
Oh, it's an omnibus.
720 page book.
Nice. Wow.
I mean, this would be if I were wanting to pay for that. This would be a book I would get, not because I'm interested in really the story or the character, but just to look at the art.
Yeah.
Oh, and then speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, my Guardians of the Galaxy, the old Guardians of the Galaxy, with let's see here, Vance Astro, Yondu, Martin X, and Charlie 27. So this is an omnibus hardcover featuring those original Guardians of the Galaxy, and I always have a soft spot in my heart for them.
Same here.
And George, did you ever read Avengers Forever?
Yes, I did.
Kurt Busiek written. I can't remember who did the art. I got to find it real quick.
And in fact, seeing that solicited almost makes me want to take it off the bookshelf and read it again, because it is one of those things that, man, if I read it in a trade form that's on the bookshelf, but if I read that in issue format, I think I'd have to keep rereading it because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh yeah. Carlos Pacheco and Jesus Marino.
If anybody hasn't read this, they should read this.
If you're an Avengers fan, especially Avengers history, this is the book to read.
Oh yeah.
I'm really tempted to buy this because my trade of that book, the glue binding was not good. And it's starting to fall. Pages are falling out of it if I open it up. So I kind of want to get this as a replacement copy and get rid of that other one.
Not for nothing, but if I recall correctly, did that come out like right before the Kurt Busiek, George Perez Avengers run when they started it up, like in the late 90s?
I'm not sure, but that kind of sounds right.
Because I mean, nothing against that art team, but doesn't a story like that almost make you think Crisis-like, and it should be George Perez art?
Oh yeah, you mean Avengers Forever?
Yeah. That doesn't make you think that, okay, boy, that would be so cool. As like almost like after Ron Lim took over for George Perez on Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh,
nothing wrong with Ron Lim, but boy, I really wish George Perez had finished Infinity Gauntlet.
And then finally, I have here, because I've always enjoyed the Avengers West Coast, or West Coast Avengers, depending on which version but they call it Avengers West Coast here. But it's an epic collection, and I have to say I really like Marvel's epic collections. I've read, or I've bought several of them. I've got still several on my bookshelf to read. They're well put together. You get a lot for
Are they full
your money.
color?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they are.
And for $40 retail.
Yeah.
And I don't pay retail. I get the discounts because of DCBS. So it's really affordable comics. And I wish they would do more of that stuff, especially this older stuff that I like so much. But I'm probably going to have to get that, because while I got the West Coast Avengers original miniseries back in 1984, I did not get the series that's part of this. They have a bunch of other one or two shot other issues featuring the characters. So this is probably a go on my short list.
Is the Vision Scarlet Witch miniseries in there, or some issues of it? Wasn't that part of the solicit? There
is Vision and the Scarlet Witch numbers 1 and 2 from 1985, which is not something I'm familiar with. I got the original Vision and Scarlet Witch miniseries from a few years earlier, I think.
Oh.
But that's not part of this.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's a nice collection of things in that particular epic collection.
Hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Are we moving on to DC finally?
That's right. And in your case, to you, this is like saving the best for last since you're a DC guy.
Well, yeah. You got me on that one.
Well, so I'm gonna let you run with it.
All right. Well, first of all, they have a new Earth 1 Wonder Woman volume 2, written by Grant Morrison with Yannick Paquette on art.
Are you reading all those Earth 1 books? Or no?
You know, I have weird feelings about the Earth 1 books because I mean they're a wonderful package, but I've not been blown away by any of them. But I still get them. I'm not sure why.
You do get them.
I do get. I think I pretty much have gotten all of them.
And you've read them.
I've read them all. It's just I don't know. They're different takes on the characters, which is what draws me to these books in the first place. And then on top of that, with the creative teams that they have on them, like this one with Grant Morrison and Yannick Paquette.
Yeah.
But I never get really excited about these stories that they're telling.
You know, you could tell that nobody is sponsoring this, right? Because we'll talk about things and we'll say it's interesting, but we're not buying it. Or you may find it interesting, Mr. and Ms. Listener, but we don't find it interesting because of this. So you can obviously tell no one's sponsoring us because we're being very candid. By the way, I like your Toon Tumbler there.
I'm wearing the Superman jacket I have too. So,
and what Superman picture is that on your Toon Tumbler?
Oh, that's the classic Neil Adams.
Breaking the Chain,
the Kryptonite chain. Yeah,
nice.
I love that. I don't drink out of it much because I think of it as it's kind of hollow ground.
Isn't that the way? I've got a couple myself.
Yeah.
All right. Quick aside in our fifth hour here. When I went to my local Alamo to see the Yellow Submarine movie yesterday, one of the things they do, especially for the big blockbuster movies, they come out with these tumblers, like your Toon Tumbler, these pint glasses from a company called Mondo, and they've got. I've always liked I've seen them. There was a nice Thor Ragnarok one with the Hulk and Thor coming at each other on each side of the glass. There's a nice Doctor Strange one. They came out with actually, I think the Doctor Strange one was one of many for Infinity War. I think each character got their own glass. So anyway, they had them on display when I went in there. And I looked at the Doctor Strange one and I looked at the Thor Ragnarok one. And I'm telling you, I was drooling and I almost pulled the trigger. And they're about the same price as a Toon Tumbler. What are they, like $10, $11, whatever?
Yeah.
But I had to stop myself because I don't need any more glassware. I mean, really, do I need another comic? But I mean, I really don't need glassware. There's no room in the cabinets. I'm not going to keep it on the counter. And I've got a couple, and just like you, they're like hallowed ground. I don't use them. So why would I buy two more that A, have no room for, and B, I'm not going to use them? So I guess some sort of rationality is kind of trying to take over my life in some aspects. But I do like those tumblers. They're nice.
It's funny you mention this because years ago, my wife, as a present, bought me a set of New Teen Titans tumblers.
Really?
And
a set?
And Justice League tumblers. So I have, 8? Either 6 or 8 to get all together of those. And then over the years, as we've been going to Comic-Cons, I've been getting other characters that I like. So the Superman, I have a Batman, a Robin, Nightwing, Daredevil. And then the girls have been getting their own too, Supergirl and Batgirl and
that's cute.
And whatnot.
Nice.
So we basically an entire cupboard full of superhero glasses. And at one point I'm like,
that you don't like to use.
Well, no, we use them all the time.
They're
just certain ones that I'm like, I don't really want to use you because then, it might fade or, tear.
Or if you break or something.
Yeah,
right?
a break. Yeah, exactly. But no, we use them all the time. But, there's one point where I said to my wife, are you okay with having a bunch of superhero glasses in your house? And she's like, yeah, why? They're just
Cool.
glasses. I don't care. So, she's cool. I like my
Cool.
wife.
Nice.
Which, and by the way, since we're talking about my wife.
It's convenient how that worked out.
Yeah. We, just want to mention, my wife and I just celebrated earlier in July our 28th anniversary.
28.
28 years together. Actually, 28 years of marriage. We've actually been together for 31 years.
Wow, you got me beat.
So
Congratulations, man.
well, thank you. It's just, she's been wonderful. She's been very supportive of not only my comic habit, but also my podcasting as well. And so I really appreciate that about her.
Good. And it's good to have that kind of support, especially A, for a hobby, B, the comic hobby, B, the hobby of the podcasting. And I'll bet you're just as supportive at whatever her interests are.
As long as she doesn't spend too much money. Yeah.
There you go. Well, you got me beat. This year was 20 years of marriage for Connie and I.
Oh, good.
And so you have us beat by that. And she is just as supportive.
That's
and
great.
In fact, although she has, it is. Although she has enjoyed me not podcasting, I think, for the past half a year or so. Yeah, because let's face it, the time we're taking to talk, some editing, some planning. Mine was released every Monday, without fail, for almost 4 years. So there was a schedule to maintain. So it has. I know it's been nice for her to not have to deal with me do that. Although I'm on the road, hopefully, to a new project in 2019. So we'll see what happens.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about this later.
Yes, when I have more details.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, planning stages.
Okay. Back to DC.
Mm-hmm.
Heroes in Crisis. Are you interested in this new Tom King event?
I am. Ever since this had been teased, and I forget how I even heard about it, but I know it's been out there. People knew about it. I've been interested in it, although I'll tell you this. The solicit isn't selling me, but the concept is selling.
Yes, I agree.
So, for instance, having this mystery about a murder in the sanctuary, I guess there needs to be a story told. But I was thinking it was going to be more like, did you ever see the HBO show called In Treatment with Gabriel Byrne? And he was
I've heard of it, but I've not watched it.
I thought it would be more along the lines of something like that, where it would be a deep psychological study, especially with Tom King's professional background before he became a comic book writer.
Right.
I thought it would be more of that, although there will probably be aspects of that in here. But I guess you need to have some sort of a story to grab people. So whether it's a superhero fisticuffs or a mystery or a quest or whatever, I guess you need that at the surface in order to go along with the other stuff. So, but I'm definitely getting this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's no doubt. No doubt.
Right in my mind, I know a lot of people are not liking his Batman, but
I do. Okay, oh man, this is going to go into hour 6 now. I forget. Is it Matt or Damien who doesn't like the Batman? Matt from Never Stay Dead. Okay, and I know you like it.
I love it.
And you made a comment on social media very recently about how you don't understand. Now, I don't think you were talking about Matt in particular, but because you listen to so many podcasts, you have heard those differing opinions, and you don't understand the opinions that differ from your own. Almost like I made that comment at the beginning of the show about the reviews I heard about Ant-Man and the Wasp, how I couldn't understand some of the reviews that I heard that differed from how I felt when I saw the movie and when I left the movie. So how do you feel about, and I have told you myself that I'm not necessarily enjoying Mr. Miracle, and I'm not reading Batman. I read The War of Jokes or Riddles for our discussion we had a year ago or whenever that was. And I enjoyed that. I probably had my curmudgeonly comments about it, but overall I enjoyed it. And, not my hashtag, not my Joker, hashtag, not my Riddler. But overall, I think I enjoyed it. But I didn't read it afterwards. So I haven't been reading it for 17, 16 issues? I don't know. I knew they were getting married. I bought issue 50. I haven't read it yet. But because it was an anniversary issue plus, getting married, whatever really happens, I don't know.
But of course, I bought issue number 50.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about these differing opinions that you hear? You made a comment in 280 characters or less on Twitter about it, but here's your forum. It's your show.
Well, so I understand, like you say, hashtag not my Batman. So I get that,
Is that what people are saying?
I think that boils it down essentially. Mm-hmm. That's just not their what they like about Batman, right? Mm-hmm. And I get the complaints that certain characters are acting mm-hmm. out of character, but mm-hmm. I guess I just ignore that part, because I look at it as this is an interpretation, just mm-hmm. like all the other runs of Snyder had an interpretation of Batman that at first I didn't care for either, mm-hmm. but I grew to like it. With King though, it's almost just, it was almost instantaneous that I loved it. The way he tells a story is just really interesting to me, and the way he depicts characters, his dialogue. And it doesn't hurt that he has fantastic artists.
Oh yeah,
working with him. Mikhail Yanin, Lee Weeks, who's doing the Heroes in Crisis book with him. Or no, that's Clayman. Sorry, Clayman.
Yeah, Clayman.
Clayman too.
Joel Jones.
It's just brilliant artists working with him, just telling these really oddball, yes, I will admit, oddball stories about Batman that maybe are a little off center, but man, what a ride.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's just,
I'll be honest with you with that Mr. Miracle story. I mean, I guess maybe once it ends and I see where it was all going, maybe I'll feel differently, but the art in there is amazing.
Yeah, well, and that's actually a collaboration of King's, where I'm more mm-hmm. interested in what Mitch Gerrits is doing on the page than the story and dialogue that we're getting from Tom King.
Yeah, I agree there. It's that artwork that's keeping me coming back for more on that. And I can't believe I'm saying that. I still can't believe I'm saying that. But it's the truth. I wasn't even going to go for Mr. Miracle, to be honest with you. I don't know much about the New Gods. If anything, Mr. Miracle is probably the one I know the most. And I know so little that I really had no interest. And especially in this day and age, again, I say it every time we do one of these episodes, but $4 a pop.
Yep.
Maybe I want to spend that $4 on another comic that I know for sure that I'm going to like, as opposed to taking the risk. Which is why a lot of those things I mentioned in the main previews book, I will not be buying as much as I would like to take mm-hmm. the risk. But at $20 a pop, $30 a pop, it adds up very quick. It's not like you're dropping 50 cents, 60 cents or anything like that. And again, at a price rate a page, if you amortize how much each page costs when you buy it like that, I get it. I totally get it. The value is actually there for what we're getting, but I just don't have it. But yes, Heroes in Crisis I am getting.
Well, speaking of price per page and Batman for that matter, we I just want to point out here the first of the Black DC Black Label. So that was announced a while back, and now we're getting Batman Damned mm-hmm. By Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. This is a 3-issue, 48 pages each, $7 per. This is the kind of thing where it's like I have no qualms about waiting for the trade if I want to read this. And I'm not mm-hmm. saying I necessarily do. Not that I mean Azzarello is a great writer. Yeah. Bermejo, I like his work. I don't know. The whole idea of the Black Label stuff with DC is just like I don't need my superheroes to be edgier.
Yeah, no.
We already have enough of that.
Some people seem very excited about it. I'm just the opposite. But if nothing else, it saves me money.
Yep.
I'll tell you one thing. Another thing that surprised me was that when I say I'm not enjoying Mr. Miracle, I'm not hating it or anything like that. I'm just maybe expectations were high and not meeting it. That's what's happening with Plastic Man for me. I read the first issue of Plastic Man, and I didn't enjoy it. And number 4 is being solicited here, and I just got number 2 the other day. I haven't read it yet, and I mean, it's only a 6-issue limited series, so I'm in for the long haul. But I was surprised that I didn't enjoy myself with Plastic Man. I mean, Gail Simone wrote it. The art's great, Adriana Milo, and I like Plastic Man as a character, but I don't know, just didn't do it for me that first issue. How about you? Did you read it?
No. I actually don't care for Plastic Man.
Mm.
You want to give me a stretchy hero? I gotta go with Elongated Man. So
right, little Ralph Dibny. It's fun how they put him in the Flash.
That's right. Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna watch those.
Oh, you haven't gotten to those?
No, I'm so far behind in my superhero TV watching.
I have to admit, so am I. And I don't know if I'm ever going to catch up. I don't know if I even want to be honest with you.
Yeah. I want to retire.
Yeah, right. I don't normally read Harley Quinn, but on page 29 of the DC book, Harley Quinn number 50 looks like a lot of fun. It double ships, and the 50th anniversary issue, Harley saves the universe while reading a mysterious Harley Quinn comic book. She accidentally breaks all of reality. And you know the saying, if you break it, you bought it. And special guest star Johnny DC, continuity cop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm going to be getting Harley Quinn number 50.
Well, now,
even though it's 5.
Thanks a lot, George. Because now I'm going to have to get that too.
Come on, Johnny DC.
Yes. See, I always bypass Harley Quinn because she's not a character I care to read all that much, but
yeah, me neither.
Now that you mention that, boy, that
Johnny
sounds like
DC, man.
Are you a fan of Brian Michael Bendis's indie work or creator owned, I should say?
I've never read anything except Powers.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've only read maybe the first 2 volumes.
Okay. Well,
I enjoyed them.
When he went to DC, he's bringing his creator owned stuff with him, and coming out with new stuff. And there's a new series called Cover that he's doing with David Mack.
Oh yes, I did see that solicited.
And I mean, those 2 guys right there, that's just like, that's like printing money. But the idea is though that deep in the American intelligence community, someone realizes that comic book creators who travel all over the world to sell their wares might make perfect cover for operatives in the dangerous, topsy-turvy world of intelligence and counterintelligence. And that's when all hell breaks loose. That just sounds like a lot of fun.
Is that a miniseries? It's got to be a miniseries.
Yeah, it's a 6-issue miniseries.
6 issues? All right, maybe. Just like you said, thanks, George. I'm going to have to say thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
I have to jot that one down.
Well, and Bendis, in a recent interview I listened to, said that this is the work of David Mack's career.
Really?
Or something along those lines. So, at the very least, we're in for a treat.
Right.
And then there's the Sandman Universe titles. They're finally being solicited. The Dreaming #1, House of Whispers #1, which I'll be getting those.
Last month when they solicited that first one shot to kind of introduce us to all these characters, I almost pre-ordered it, and I said, you know what? I want to get involved, but I don't want to get involved, so I stopped. So I'm not getting any of those.
Oh man. Did you not read the Sandman stuff back in the day and then in the 90s?
Did not. Nope.
Oh.
Yeah. So I guess maybe that's why it's easier for me to pull back. But I will be interested. You'll probably do a show or 3 about it, so I'll listen to those.
Probably, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, but here's a perfect opportunity, George, because they're re-releasing the 30th anniversary edition of Sandman Volume 1, Preludes and Nocturnes, for $20. Come on.
Oh, man. Just like that guy I meet on the street corner who gives me that packet of the white stuff. Well, anyway, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. Well, on the flip side of the page with cover #1 is Doomsday Clock #7. Doomsday Clock just keeps chugging along. And I have come to the conclusion that I don't think I'm going to read it till the last one comes out.
Really?
Well, the last issue I read is the one where Batman, well, I guess I shouldn't spoil. I don't know if anything's a spoiler. where Batman meets Rorschach. I'm not going to say anything else. And it ends not the way Rorschach was kind of hoping it would end. So I think I'm 2 issues behind now, and because it comes out bi-monthly, it's easy for me to kind of put on the side and do other things. So with issue number 7 coming out in September, I'll probably be at that point 4 issues behind. So at that point, it's almost like, I mean, the whole Rebirth, all the Easter eggs and red herrings and teases from Rebirth are just taking too long to reach any sort of fruition.
Yeah.
That this is one of those books where it's so dense. I don't want to miss anything. I'm going to forget stuff. I think I just want to read it all at once.
That's probably a really good idea.
So I don't know, because I don't think it's not really affecting anything else. So if I don't know where it's at, I mean, unless somebody spoils it on a podcast or something like that, but I think I can do without. I think, I want to read it eventually, but I think I can wait.
Well, so does that mean you're going to continue to get the issues and just set them aside? Okay.
Yeah. That's what I'll do. So it is on my pull list, but I have the feeling I'm going. That's very rare for me to do that, by the way. Like something like Paper Girls or Sex Criminals or something like that comes out, 5 or 6 issues at a time, and then you wait a little bit before the next story arc. But really, it's a long story. So even though you call it an arc, it's really it's really not an arc, so to speak. You know what I mean? So those I still read issue by issue. I might fall a little bit behind, but I catch up, that kind of thing. So it's very rare for me to say that for this.
I actually really like the way that they're, especially the Image, the comics through Image comics that are coming out, where they do that, like Saga and Paper Girls and Lazarus at one point, where they would do, several issues, take a break, come back in a few months, do a bunch more. I really like that model. I wish we could get more of that. Although I guess, DC and Marvel, that doesn't work for them.
Well, I think in their version of it is a reboot.
Well, that's, okay.
Believe it or not, I'm still reading Sideways.
I am too.
I'm
looking at it though, looking at it with the side eye.
Yeah.
Thinking,
the Kenneth Rocafort art, I like it. And with the 7 Soldiers being solicited for issue number 8, I'll keep coming back. And I like the Terrifics, another part of that Age of Heroes. Those are the only 2 Age of Heroes things I'm reading. Although I listen to every podcast you've done for those number 1 issues.
Yeah, I've got.
Yeah, and that's why I joke around. Yeah, I joke around in my tweets saying you read it so I don't have to. So so keep that up.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Mr. Miracle on page 38. Issue number 12 is solicited. The cover is very nice, reminiscent of issue number 1.
Right.
So that's kind of nice. And on the flip side, on page 37, Looney Tunes number 245. Why this must have happened before, but Speedy Gonzales and the Roadrunner. I mean, come on. Why isn't that a thing?
Hey, said you mentioned that. Who do you think should win?
That's a good question. This is like a Superman Flash thing, right?
Yeah, that's right. This reveals everything about you, George.
Yes. I really think Speedy Gonzales has something to do with the Speed Force.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Speedy.
We are
not to be confused with not to be confused with the Green Arrow's former sidekick.
Oh, right.
Now called Arsenal, right? That's all I had for DC, so I'm going to let you barrel through.
Just a few more things. Did you ever read Day Tripper by Gabriel Bá and Fabio Moon?
I keep seeing it in the library, and it's like, I'm going to take it out tomorrow. I'm going to take it out tomorrow, but I haven't taken it. Yeah,
you got to get it. But they're putting out an absolute of this.
Oh,
which
it's worthy of an absolute,
huh?
It's worthy of an absolute.
I mean, it's great. It's you should definitely read the collection. But
how much is that? Aren't absolute editions like $100 or something?
$100. Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
It says collects the entire 10-issue miniseries. I would hope that they would have a bit more than just the reprint of the
I know
series.
it doesn't make sense. Yeah,
I mean, it's gorgeous. It's a brilliant story.
Mm.
I'd be really interested to hear what you think of it, George. So,
all right, I'm gonna have to take it out.
and then the second of the third things is a trade of Deathbed by Joshua Williamson and, more importantly, Riley Rosmo.
Now, was that a Vertigo thing? Like, I'm familiar with
it's
that.
Vertigo.
Oh, okay.
But I don't even really care what it's about because it's Riley Rosmo art. I just love his stuff. I mean, the story when you read the solicitation, the story is compelling enough to get, but it's just like, wow, I just got to get that for Riley Rosmo. And then finally, I wish it wasn't $50, but Shazam: The Monster Society of Evil Deluxe Edition hardcover.
Ooh.
All I've ever heard. This is written by Otto Binder, CC Beck art with Pete Costanza. All I've ever heard is how great this story is.
Mm-hmm.
Never read it.
Me neither.
$50,
$50, huh?
$50, yeah. Collects Captain Marvel Adventures 22 through 46. Yeah. 24 chapter serial from the golden age of comics.
Right.
So I think I have to get this. But we'll see, because like I said, $50, even with the discount from DCBS, yeah. I'm really pushing my my budget for comics this month. And I think I say that every month, but it's just like every month it seems like, man, there's just so much good stuff.
Yeah.
That's just waiting to be bought and delivered to my grimy hands.
Read and enjoyed.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Read and enjoyed, bagged and boxed, to be pulled out at some future point to revisit it.
Cataloged and put into the database.
Exactly. Yes, that's right.
Do you get into the whole, well, you don't have a local comic shop that you go to, right? You said
not regularly, no.
Yeah. Would you bother to go to one for the Halloween Comic Fest in October or no?
If they have it, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think they do, but
last year I bought the commemorative shirt by Franco Villa. Who did the Afterlife with Archie? Isn't that his name, Franco Villa, or do I have it wrong?
Franco Villa, yeah.
Franco Villa.
I can't remember his first name.
I probably have it wrong. But anyway, this year's is by Eric Powell. I'm not going to purchase that shirt because I got last year's shirt. But this one looks nice. And they also have the generic Halloween Comic Fest shirt. So if you have your local comic shop and you want to help support them, go purchase one of these shirts and go for those little $4.99 pack, 25, the pack with the 25 mini comics.
Yeah.
To give it out with the candy on Halloween.
I did that once.
How was that received?
With quizzical looks.
Did you couple it with candy, or did you just give?
Yeah. No. I gave candy and a comic.
That's how I would do
it. But yeah, I think they were just like, "Why are you giving me something to read?" That was kind of the vibe I got from the kids. But there were a couple. I remember one comment as I was, because there were like 5 or 6 kids at my door, and I'm shoving in these comics and giving them candy, and then one of them off to the side was like, "Is that a comic book?"
I recently took my nephew went to the Museum of Natural History, the Smithsonian Museum out in D.C. a week or two before school ended. And I don't know if my brother had ever taken him into D.C. or anything like that, but he liked the museum so much that when my dad came to town, he specifically said, when Grandpa comes to town, I want to go back to D.C. to that museum, plus I want to see some of the monuments. So we said, oh, wow, never asked us to do anything like that before. Let's do it. So we all did it as a family. And little kids don't have that attention span, right? And when you're looking at stuff, whether it be a dinosaur or a bug or whatever, or a skeleton or something, they're just kind of looking at it, but they're not really absorbing what they're looking at. I mean, unless they're really, really interested in it for some reason. So what I started to do was we were looking at mummies. There were unwrapped mummies, the preserved bodies without the bandaging around them. So they were fascinated by that. So I started to read what was written on the wall. And my nephew, without skipping a beat, told me, Uncle George, I didn't come here to learn anything. And he walked away. So I'm not surprised that the reaction you received was, you're giving us something to read, you're giving us work to do.
Yeah.
We just want the sugar high, man. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. So I'm not surprised.
Kids, get off my lawn.
Right. Now you probably cringe when you hear something like, wait, what? You don't want to learn anything?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever my daughter in the past and now my granddaughters, even though Madison likes to read comics, whenever they talk about not liking to read, like, prose books, it's like they're stabbing me in my heart a little bit, every time.
Yeah. Again, I'm not comparing nephews, nieces, anything like that, but there was a time where my younger nephew loved to devour books. There were those scholastic book fairs that you hear about all the time these days. And there was something where, like, you could go to the library, you were allowed to take out a book, and there was some sort of a system that if you were, you got gold stars, you could take out 2 books or whatever. And then on the book fair days, I guess the library sold some of their books or gave away some of the older books. So there was that special day where you could take a book and you could keep it. And there was some sort of a pride in that, like, oh, wow, I got this book. And Captain Underpants was one of the books. I wish I could remember some of the others. So Captain Underpants, I think, has maybe 12, 13 books, whatever it is. So that happened once, it's like once your grandmother found that you like you ate lemon Jello, and you said, oh, I like this. Every time you went there, you got lemon Jello, right? So as the uncle, I knew we liked Captain Underpants. So birthday comes along, Christmas comes along, next volume, whatever. Well, this birthday came around. Yeah, I guess it was the birthday. And I found out that free time is not spent on that anymore. It's spent on Fortnite.
Oh, okay.
The video game Fortnite.
Yeah.
And to try to wean away from that drug, that visual drug, to go back to the written word is a bit of a challenge for the adults to do. And I'm like, oh boy, that is going to be a challenge as time goes on. You get to that particular age, and then there'll be another milestone age and whatever. So I lament the loss of that interest in reading.
Right
at this point in his life. And I know the same thing must have happened to my nephew Frankie. Frankie doesn't live around me, so I don't know where those stages came in his life. I always sent him graphic novels and comics and stuff. Whether or not he always read them is another story. I know he enjoys them now, but they may have also sat on a bookshelf, never read, when I mailed them to him, for Christmas or something like that. So again, trying to make the little ones in your life share the loves that you have, whether it be comics, a sport, whatever.
Yeah, I'm fully anticipating in the next probably few years that Madison's interest in comic books and this kind of superhero geekery type stuff will fade, and then I'll once again be all alone in my love of this medium.
That's right. With just your podcast listeners to sit by the fire with.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of fun. And, I lied at the beginning. I'm looking at my fake watch here on my wrist, and we went to 7 hours. So what's our old joke? Yeah. So what's our old joke? Ed McMahon, can we get a timpani, please? How much money did we what was the song Jerry Lewis would always sing at the end of the Muscular Dystrophy Telethon? I'm not going to regale you with my off-key singing. So.
Well, anyway, that's so. But we did our darndest to provide the listeners with lots of options.
My goodness, and you gave me a few that I didn't write down. I mean, that I didn't originally.
Ditto,
have.
Yeah. So from what I say, the July previews. I always have to look to make sure I'm getting the right month.
Right. For September release. So mostly September.
Mostly release. September. So there you go. Hopefully you will enjoy some of these things and or contemplate, consider getting
I
some of
really
these
devour
things?
previews. I love when that last Wednesday of the month comes and I get that previews from my local shop. Man, I devour that thing. And I think it's because I don't buy as much as I used to, but I like to keep abreast of what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure, there's the major publishers, but even that back matter, what everybody calls the back matter, which is now the main book, man, there's just so much stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
There really is. So many gems to discover out there.
Too many.
So I do hope that the listeners out there, sure, we all know DC, we all know Marvel and some of the other big publishers, but there's some other stuff in the back. Even one thing, sample it, one thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like me and go for the memoirs and the biographies and stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff back there.
Yeah.
A lot of fun stuff.
And there's a lot of stuff that like I said, I trimmed off the list to try and keep this as short as possible. But even still, I think we're going to be well over the 2-hour mark for this one, George.
Yeah, I threw that off, but hopefully we made it entertaining.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
or a
so
little soft shoe.
I think we should call it a night, George. It's getting late for you, I know, and I got to get packed and ready to go visit my granddaughter for her first birthday.
To visit. Yeah,
that's right. So
and,
okay.
Tell her George from the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show says happy birthday.
All right. Well, and while you're at it, George, why don't you remind the fine listeners how they can get a hold of you in case they would like to, or
please,
or listen to the still available episodes of the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show.
That's right. I still pay the server fees, so you may as well make it worth my while. I still maintain the Twitter and the Facebook pages. So the Facebook page is George and Tony Entertainment. The Twitter handle is George and Tony, and I will have to admit, now that I don't post the show on a weekly basis anymore, there's nothing to post. I've been delinquent on Facebook, and Twitter is where I focus my energy. Mm-hmm. I was kind of good every 2 or 3 weeks once the year started to post stuff about art, pick something out of the archives to focus on Facebook, to at least try and remind people that we're here. We existed, and if and when I finally do get a new project off the ground, we're not totally forgotten by those who may have listened to us. But I have been delinquent in that, and I've been focusing more on Twitter. But the archives are out there. We got rid of the georgeandtony.com, but we are still at georgeandtony.libsyn.com.
And I'll have links to the show in my show notes as well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And you were on plenty of episodes, especially the last, in 2017, you were on a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were very gracious and kept me busy during that those final months.
Thanks. So those were fun conversations. Yeah. So if people haven't listened to them for whatever reason, seek them out on Libsyn. They're all 200 episodes are out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, George. And
thanks for having me.
Yep. And if anybody would like to send feedback about this episode or let us know what you ended up buying from the July previews, you can always email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave comments at longboxreview.com, and you can also send me the tweets at longboxreview. So thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.